Welcome to Mr. Sleepy Stories. Tonight, we'll have a gentle chat about whales. The ocean, vast and quiet, holds the calmest giants on Earth. Beneath its silver surface, whales drift and sing, their voices traveling farther than any sound made by living creatures. Some rest upright like pillars in a dreaming forest, while others surface together in perfect rhythm, their breaths rising like soft clouds in the moonlight. Even the smallest details, a glimmering eye, a shimmering trail of bubbles, remind us how peaceful life can be when it moves at the ocean's pace. So tonight let's drift with them for a while, through slow currents, ancient songs, and the kind of stillness that makes the whole world exhale. If you enjoy what I do here, please like and subscribe, and share your experiences with this video topic in the comments below. I'd love to read your stories and hear how these calming facts help you relax before bed. Far below the surface, where sunlight fades into quiet blue, a single voice begins to rise. It's not a shout or a call for help. It's a melody. A whale song, deep and slow, flowing through the water like breath through a flute. One phrase follows another, then repeats, and before long, the ocean itself seems to hum in response. Humpback whales are the composers of this underwater world. Only males sing, and no one truly knows why, though many believe it's a way to impress females or to mark territory in a realm without walls. What we do know is that their songs are astonishingly long. Some last 20 minutes. Others go on for hours with perfect rhythm and recurring verses, as if the sea itself keeps time. Sound travels far underwater, much farther than light, so a single whale song can reach others hundreds of miles away. And over the months, these songs slowly change. A phrase might lengthen, a note might shift, and soon the entire ocean population is singing the new version. It's like an ancient symphony rewritten by countless unseen musicians. Scientists once called it a mystery. Poets call it proof that the sea remembers. Every rise and fall of that deep voice carries more than sound. It carries memory, connection, and something like longing. So when you close your eyes tonight and hear the hush of the world, imagine that somewhere far below, a whale is still singing, softly, endlessly, to no one and everyone at once. Somewhere in the open sea, a slow rhythm echoes through the deep, not from drums or thunder, but from life itself. A blue whale's heart beats beneath miles of water, each thud heavy enough to ripple across the quiet ocean. Scientists say the sound can be heard 2 miles away. 2 miles from one living creature's pulse. The heart behind that sound is enormous, weighing nearly as much as a small car. Its arteries are wide enough for a human child to crawl through. Yet inside, it moves just like ours. Squeeze, release, rest. When the whale dives, its heartbeat slows to just a few beats per minute, conserving oxygen as it glides through dark water. Then, as it surfaces for air, that rhythm quickens again, a calm, ancient cycle that has echoed for millions of years. In a way, the blue whale carries the planet's quietest and most powerful metronome. Every beat stirs the surrounding water, carrying vibrations through salt and current, as if the ocean itself listens and replies. It's a sound that reminds us how alive the sea really is, a heartbeat so vast the earth might be keeping time with it. If you could drift there in the stillness, you wouldn't need music or words. You'd just feel that steady rhythm moving through your bones, slow and sure, like the world breathing in sleep. That's the blue whale's gift, a reminder that even in the deepest silence, life still has a heartbeat, and it never truly stops. When a whale begins its dive, something extraordinary happens inside its body. The world's largest heart starts to slow. On the surface, it beats around 25 times a minute. But as the whale sinks into the blue, that rhythm fades to just 2. 2 deep, deliberate beats to carry it hundreds of meters below. The ocean rewards patience, and whales have mastered it. As pressure builds, their bodies shift into a state of pure efficiency. Blood flow is redirected to the most vital organs, the brain and the heart. Muscles store oxygen in special proteins called myoglobin, allowing them to move gracefully without needing to breathe. It's like the whale gently tells its body, "Be still, we're going under." Humans, by comparison, can only hold their breath for a few minutes before panic sets in. But a whale's body knows how to slow everything down. The heartbeat, the breathing reflex, even the need for warmth. Down there in the deep, silence replaces motion. Every slow thump of the heart feels like time itself has paused. For scientists, this process is a marvel of evolution. For storytellers, it feels like meditation in motion, a creature that literally lowers its pulse to survive the pressure of the unknown. If you ever feel the world racing around you, remember this. Somewhere beneath the waves, a whale is drifting through darkness, its heart beating just twice a minute. And yet, in that slowness, it remains powerful, calm, and utterly alive. In the cool morning waters off Alaska or Antarctica, a circle begins to form, not of light, but of air. Tiny silver bubbles rise in a spiral, shimmering like a net spun from breath. Then, from the center of this swirling trap, a humpback whale surges upward with its mouth wide open. That's a humpback whale's secret. It fishes with bubbles. This incredible strategy is called bubble net feeding. It's one of the few examples of tool use in the animal kingdom, and it requires perfect teamwork. One whale dives deep and releases a steady stream of bubbles, swimming upward in tight loops. The bubbles rise, confusing and trapping small fish, herring, krill, or anchovies in a living, swirling cage. Meanwhile, other whales dive beneath, calling to another in low, rumbling tones, coordinating their positions like a graceful underwater ballet. When the moment is right, they rise together, mouths open, water rushing in, fish swallowed in a single motion. The ocean erupts with movement and sound, then falls silent again. What remains is the faint shimmer of bubbles breaking on the surface. It's a rare sight to witness. Intelligence, cooperation, and timing all at once. Humpbacks don't always hunt this way, but when they do, it feels like nature's version of symphony and dance. Each whale plays a part, trusting the rhythm and the pattern they've practiced countless times before. It's proof that even in the wild, harmony exists, not just survival, but shared understanding. A circle of bubbles, a spiral of trust, and a reminder that sometimes the gentlest forces, air, rhythm, and unity, can move the ocean itself. In the vast stillness of the open sea, a newborn blue whale presses close to its mother. The ocean around them is cold and endless, but here, in this small circle of warmth, life begins. The mother's heartbeat echoes through the water, slow and steady, as her calf finds the milk that will keep it alive. Blue whale milk is unlike any other, thick, rich, and almost solid, with the texture of toothpaste. It needs to be that way. In the deep, the sea would wash away anything too thin or delicate. So evolution crafted a formula dense enough to survive the current. Each drop is packed with fat and energy, helping the baby gain nearly 200 pounds every single day. The calf nurses beneath the mother's body, guided by instinct, drinking in bursts before coming up to breathe. There are no nests, no shelter, no resting place, only the open ocean and the gentle rhythm of the mother's care. For months, this milk is all the calf needs. It grows stronger, its voice deeper, its dives longer. Every heartbeat of the mother carries nourishment into the next generation. To watch them is to see tenderness on a scale almost too large to imagine. A creature as vast as a ship, feeding her young in silence, surrounded by the shimmer of light through salt water. No words, no sound, just the language of survival and love. When the calf is finally ready to swim on its own, the bond remains invisible but unbroken. Somewhere in that great blue expanse, a mother's warmth still lingers. Proof that even in the coldest seas, care runs deep. When night settles over the sea, whales do something quietly remarkable. They sleep, but never completely. One half of their brain drifts into rest, while the other stays awake, listening to the world around them. It's called unihemispheric sleep, and it's nature's perfect compromise between safety and stillness. Whales are voluntary breathers. They can't breathe automatically like we do. If they ever fell fully asleep, they might forget to surface for air. So instead, one side of their mind takes turns resting, while the other watches the deep. They float near the surface, motionless, as if dreaming with one eye open. Sometimes they drift vertically, heads tilted downward like statues suspended in blue light. It's a quiet kind of half-dream. Every few minutes, the awake half sends a signal. Rise, breathe, drift again. Then, after a while, the two sides switch and the cycle continues. For a whale, sleep is not surrender, it's balance, a gentle rhythm between consciousness and calm, shaped by millions of years of adaptation. To a diver passing by, the sight would seem magical, a giant body suspended in the soft dark, barely moving, surrounded by silence and silver light. No sound, no song, just peace. In a way, whales remind us that rest doesn't have to mean escape. It can simply be a pause, a moment of stillness within motion. Even when half awake, they find their calm, breathing in rhythm with the sea. And maybe that's the secret of the ocean itself. Not total silence, not full sleep, but something in between, where awareness and rest live side by side, floating together through the night. Out in the wide blue silence, a song begins, deep, echoing, and patient. It comes from a humpback whale, one of the great singers of the sea. His voice rises and falls in slow, haunting notes that travel for miles through the dark water. But here's what's most extraordinary. That same song will change, little by little, until whales on the other side of the ocean are singing it too. Each male humpback performs a version of the same melody, passed from one to another like an old story retold. Scientists have tracked these songs as they drift across entire oceans, slowly evolving over the years. A phrase might disappear, a new rhythm might emerge, yet the essence remains, a single musical tradition that spans thousands of miles. No one knows exactly why they sing. Some believe it's a mating display. Others think it's communication or expression, maybe even something more mysterious. What's clear is that these songs are shared, changed, and remembered. When one population adopts a new tune, nearby groups learn it, echo it, and pass it on. It's the ocean's version of word of mouth, except the words are made of sound and time. Listening to it feels like hearing the sea breathe in slow motion. The song rolls and repeats, a conversation that never truly ends. Even after months, a familiar pattern lingers beneath the waves, like a hymn that refuses to fade. It reminds us that memory doesn't always live in minds or books. Sometimes it drifts in the water, carried by creatures who have been singing since before we could listen. Somewhere out there, the ocean hums with their living melody, ancient, changing, and endless. Every whale carries a quiet record of its life, not written in words or carved in stone, but sealed inside its own body. Deep within its ear canal lies a column of wax, pale and solid, layered year after year. To the scientists who study them, these layers are as revealing as the rings of a tree. As a whale grows, its earwax builds up in alternating light and dark bands, one for every season it's lived. A single strip can tell when the whale was born, how old it was when it migrated, even when it struggled or thrived. Hormones, pollutants, and traces of the ocean's chemistry all leave their signatures there. By studying those bands, researchers can read the story of an entire lifetime, where the whale swam, what it ate, when it bore young, and when its body changed with age. But beyond the science, there's something quietly beautiful about it. The idea that a creature's life is recorded in silence, layer by layer, with no need for memory or writing. The whale doesn't know it carries its own biography, yet it drifts through the sea, building that record day by day. If you could hold one of those waxy spires in your hand, it would look simple, pale, smooth, unremarkable. But inside lies half a century of tides and migrations, storms and calm waters, youth and endurance. It's time, preserved in stillness. The ocean has many ways of remembering: coral skeletons, ice cores, the rhythm of waves. But few are as intimate as this, a quiet record in the ear of a whale, marking not just the passage of time, but the quiet persistence of life itself. The ocean is not silent, it hums. Beneath the surface, long, slow waves of sound roll endlessly through the dark, far beyond what human ears can hear. And among those waves are voices, the deep, resonant calls of whales. Some of these sounds are so low, so powerful, that they can travel across entire ocean basins, from one side of the world to the other. While we measure distance in miles, whales measure it in echoes. A blue whale, for example, can send a low-frequency call, almost like a heartbeat turned into sound, that travels thousands of miles through seawater. Because sound moves 4 times faster in water than in air and loses little energy along the way, the ocean becomes a natural acoustic highway. To a whale, another singer might be impossibly far away, out of sight, beyond the horizon, separated by continents. Yet through these low, vibrating notes, they connect. Their calls may help with navigation, finding mates, or simply maintaining the rhythm of their distant pods. Scientists first discovered this by placing underwater microphones, hydrophones, deep across the world's oceans. They found that whales weren't just singing near the surface, they were carrying on vast, slow-motion conversations that stretched across time and distance. It's humbling to think that while ships and storms pass overhead, a quiet dialogue continues below, messages riding through the pressure and silence, ancient and unbroken. So when the sea feels empty, it's not. Somewhere beneath the noise, the whales are still speaking, low, patient, and steady, their voices drifting like long threads that weave the oceans together. In the frozen silence of the Arctic, some bowhead whales glide through the water older than any living human. They have watched 2 centuries pass, generations of storms, migrations, and ice ages shifting above them, yet they remain, calm and unhurried, carrying time in their flesh. Scientists once doubted such longevity, until hunters found stone harpoon tips lodged deep in whale blubber, weapons crafted over 100 years ago, long before modern ships or radio. Tests later confirmed it. Bowheads can live more than 200 years. inside their eyes, proteins fold and age so slowly that researchers can read their timeline like a map of centuries. The bowhead's secret lies in its pace. It moves slowly, eats efficiently, and spends most of its life beneath cold, oxygen-rich waters. Its body repairs damage carefully, its cells dividing at a measured rhythm. Where humans rush through decades, the whale drifts through centuries. It's a life of patience, a creature born into stillness, surviving by endurance and calm. Imagine the memories such a being might hold if it could tell its story. The shifting of the polar ice, the songs of long-vanished pods, the dim hum of old wooden ships. Each breath it takes connects two distant eras, the past and the present mingling in its chest. We live our lives by the hour. The bowhead measures by generations. In its world, nothing is wasted and nothing is rushed. Its heart beats slowly beneath the ice, steady and ancient, a living reminder that time can be gentle when life moves in rhythm with the sea. If you've ever seen a whale rise to the surface, you might notice pale lines across its back, faint circles near its tail, or scratches that shimmer when the light hits the skin. To most people, they're just marks, but to the whale, they are stories. Every scar tells a fragment of a life lived in motion. Some come from brushes with sharp ice in Arctic waters. Others are reminders of predators, orcas, sharks, or the long trails of barnacles that once clung to their sides. And some, sadly, come from encounters with ships and nets, the modern dangers of a crowded ocean. Yet despite it all, the whale endures. Scientists use these patterns like fingerprints, identifying individuals across years or oceans. A nick in the fin, a scratch on the flank. These details allow researchers to recognize a whale decades later. Beneath the calm gray skin lies a history of migration, survival, and quiet strength. But there's something more to these scars than data. They're proof of resilience. Every healed wound is a reminder that the ocean is not always gentle, yet life persists. A scar doesn't define weakness, it declares endurance. When sunlight filters through the surface, those marks glow faintly, turning the whale's body into a living journal. Each breath, each scar, each resurfacing becomes a chapter. Maybe that's the most human thing about them. They carry their past without shame. The sea remembers through its waves, and whales remember through their skin. It's a reminder for all of us. Survival leaves marks, but so does beauty. And sometimes they're the same thing. When a whale dives, its tail rises above the surface, wide, strong, and shining with seawater. To most of us, it's a fleeting moment, gone in a splash. But to those who watch closely, that tail, called a fluke, is more than just a fin. It's a signature. No two are the same. Each fluke bears its own pattern, different edges, spots, and scars. Some have pale streaks shaped by old barnacles, others dark patches like ink stains. Even the outline varies, jagged, smooth, curved, or split. Over time, sunlight, salt, and life itself leave their marks, turning each whale's tale into something uniquely personal. Scientists around the world use these patterns to identify individuals. They photograph the tails as whales dive and compare them to massive catalogs, sometimes recognizing the same whale decades later, one that's traveled thousands of miles since its last sighting. Through those records, they piece together migration paths, lifespans, even family connections. But there's something quietly poetic in that simple truth. Every whale, no matter how vast or ancient the sea, carries something that belongs only to itself, a fingerprint written in water. It's humbling to think that even in a world as immense as the ocean, identity still matters, not to prove ownership or difference, but to show that life, in all its forms, leaves traces of individuality, beauty shaped by time. So the next time you see a whale's tail disappear beneath the surface, remember, you've just witnessed its name, its mark, its story, vanishing for now, but never lost in the memory of the sea. If you could stand beside a blue whale, you might feel small beyond belief, not just because of its size, but because of its quiet majesty. And hidden inside that enormous mouth is something even more astonishing, a tongue that can weigh as much as a full-grown elephant. This vast tongue moves with slow, deliberate power. When the whale feeds, it opens its mouth wide enough to engulf an entire school of krill and thousands of gallons of seawater. Then, with one sweeping motion, that enormous tongue presses upward, forcing the water out through its baleen plates, thin, flexible combs that trap the tiny creatures inside. It's a feeding technique so graceful that something monumental looks effortless. Imagine a tongue so large it could fill a small car, yet moving in rhythm with the sea. Beneath its smooth surface runs a network of muscles and veins that help control this incredible tool, soft enough to press, strong enough to move oceans of water. Despite its size, the tongue works in silence. It doesn't roar or crash. It simply glides, repeating this ritual thousands of times a day as the whale drifts through plankton blooms. It's nature's quiet power, strength expressed through calm precision. When you think of an elephant, you think of land and dust and warm breath. Now imagine that same weight drifting beneath the waves, slow, blue, and full of life. The blue whale's tongue reminds us how grand the ordinary can be. Even the act of eating, simple, rhythmic, necessary, becomes something cosmic when performed by the largest creature on earth. Long before the oceans filled with song, the ancestors of whales walked on land. They had legs, hooves, and lungs that drew air beneath the sun. They wandered along riverbanks and swam in shallow lakes, hunting fish in the reeds. If you saw one, you might not have known what it would one day become, a creature destined to leave the land behind and call the sea home. Scientists discovered the fossils of these ancient beings in places that are now deserts. Pachycetus, for example, looked like a small wolf with webbed feet and sharp teeth. Later came Ambulocetus, literally the walking whale, an amphibious mammal that could paddle through water and still move on land. Over millions of years, their descendants ventured further into the ocean, their legs shortening, their bodies lengthening, their nostrils slowly moving to the top of their heads. Bit by bit, land faded from their story. Bones turned to flippers, ears adapted to hear underwater, and tails grew strong enough to propel them through the deep. What began as a simple step into a river became an entire new way of life. Today, the bones of those ancient legs still exist, hidden inside a whale's body. Tiny remnants buried near the spine, silent reminders of their past. The ocean may have claimed them, but the memory of Earth remains within. It's strange and comforting at once to know that even the greatest swimmers were once walkers. Nature, in its patient way, writes no final chapters. It just turns the page, and what was once a hoofprint in the mud becomes a trail of bubbles beneath the sea. Beneath the rolling surface of the sea, where light fades and sound drifts like mist, a mother whale swims with her calf by her side. She doesn't sing, doesn't call out, doesn't fill the ocean with her voice. Instead, she whispers. Her sounds are soft, nearly impossible to hear from far away, low pulses of gentle rhythm, quiet enough to vanish before predators can detect them. Scientists call them whale murmurs. These faint signals let a calf stay close, guided only by the voice meant for it and no one else. For whales, communication is survival. Orcas and sharks can hear from distant distances, so loud calls could bring danger. But these mothers know the art of quiet, sending messages that fade within a few 100 feet, just enough for safety. In the calm between waves, those whispers carry comfort and instruction, when to dive, when to rise, when to stay still. The calf listens, learning the language of the deep, one made not of noise, but of presence. Sometimes the pair glides in perfect silence for hours, their shadows moving together like a single shape. It's humbling to imagine a creature so vast moving through the world with such gentleness. In a place where everything echoes, the mother's love is expressed through near silence, proof that love doesn't always need to be loud to be strong. If you could drift nearby, you might feel those whispers more than hear them, soft ripples of warmth and safety in the dark water. And as they disappear into the quiet, the sea holds their secret, that love, even at its largest, can still sound like a whisper. In the pale Arctic seas, where the ice drifts like floating glass, a soft, strange sound sometimes echoes through the water, something that doesn't quite belong. It might sound like a muffled laugh, a distant whistle, or even a few human-like syllables. Then it comes again, clearer this time, and the researchers realize it's not a person at all. It's a beluga whale. Belugas are often called the canaries of the sea because their voices are so varied and bright. They chirp, click, whistle, and hum a full orchestra beneath the ice. But what makes them truly special is their ability to mimic. In aquariums and Arctic research stations, people have reported hearing belugas imitate human voices, even copying tone and rhythm. One whale in captivity once sounded so much like a diver that the crew mistook the mimicry for speech. Scientists think this talent comes from their incredibly flexible vocal anatomy. Belugas can shape the air inside their nasal cavities to produce a range of sounds, almost like changing instruments mid-song. They don't just make noise, they play with it. It's tempting to think of this as curiosity, maybe even playfulness. A creature hearing a human voice and deciding to join in, bridging the gap for just a moment. Imagine standing by the ice, hearing your own voice echoed back from the water, softer, slower, as if the sea itself were answering. It's a small reminder that we're not as different as we think. Across the cold expanse, one whale hums a tune we almost recognize, and for a heartbeat, the ocean speaks back. Far beneath the waves, in darkness where no sunlight reaches, a sound echoes through the deep. It's not a roar or a crash, it's a click, a single sharp pulse that can travel for miles and vibrate through the bones of any creature that hears it. That click belongs to a sperm whale, and it is the loudest sound made by any living being on Earth. At full strength, a sperm whale's click can reach over 230 decibels, louder than a jet engine, louder than thunder itself. But these aren't random bursts of noise. They're signals, each one deliberate and controlled. Sperm whales use these clicks to see with sound, creating mental maps of the world around them through echoes. It's called echolocation, a way of navigating the lightless deep with precision and grace. Inside the whale's enormous head lies the secret, the spermaceti organ, a vast chamber filled with a waxy oil that focuses sound like a lens. When the whale clicks, the sound travels through that organ and out into the water in a tight beam. Every returning echo paints a picture of squid, mountains, or other whales drifting far below. Scientists once mistook these clicks for mechanical sounds, as if machines had come to life beneath the sea. But no, it was always the whales, ancient, intelligent, and impossibly loud. Yet for all their volume, these sounds aren't violent. They are purposeful, calm, like the steady rhythm of sonar guiding a traveler home. In a world where vision fades, the sperm whale speaks in thunder, not to frighten, but to see, to connect, and to remind the ocean that power can also be a kind of music. Each year, as the northern ice begins to melt, gray whales begin a journey unlike any other. From the cold, food-rich waters of the Arctic, they travel south, past the coasts of Alaska, along the edge of California, and into the warm, calm lagoons of Mexico. It is a voyage of more than 10,000 miles, the longest migration of any mammal on Earth. They travel slowly, in small groups or alone, guided by instinct and memory. No map, no stars, just something ancient inside them that remembers the way. Scientists still don't know how whales navigate with such precision. Some think they follow Earth's magnetic fields. Others believe they read the patterns of the sea itself, temperature, current, the pool of the tides. When they arrive, the warm bays become nurseries. Mothers give birth in gentle waters, and calves learn to breathe, swim, and recognize their mother's voices. Then, as the seasons shift, the entire journey begins again, back toward the Arctic, back to the feeding grounds where life began. Along the way they face storms, ships, and hunger. Yet somehow they endure, their slow, steady pace unchanged by centuries of change above the waves. The same paths they swim today were likely traveled by their ancestors long before human cities lined the shore. There's something deeply comforting in that, the idea that even in a restless world, some rhythms remain steady. The gray whale's migration is not a race, it's a heartbeat stretched across oceans. Every mile they swim is a quiet promise to return, to continue, and to trust that the sea always leads them home. Beneath the smooth shimmer of a whale's body, something is always changing. It isn't obvious to the eye, but every moment the whale's skin is gently peeling, layer by layer, cell by cell. The ocean is harsh, full of salt and friction, and to move through it effortlessly, whales must stay sleek, so their bodies never stop renewing. Unlike many sea creatures that rely on scales or shells, a whale depends on its bare, smooth skin to glide through the water. But constant movement creates wear, small imperfections, roughness, tiny layers of dead cells. To stay hydrodynamic, the whale simply lets go of what's no longer needed. New skin replaces the old, keeping the surface soft and friction-free, as if the ocean itself were polishing it. In colder waters, some whales even rub against sandy seabeds or rocks to help the process along, like a natural exfoliation. Scientists studying this peeling discovered that shedding skin isn't just about swimming faster. It also helps prevent parasites and keeps the body healthy. There's something quietly poetic about that. The largest creatures on Earth surviving through gentle renewal. No struggle, no shedding of scales or feathers, just a slow, continuous release. When you picture a whale roving through the deep, you can imagine that constant transformation, a body gliding forward, leaving behind what no longer serves it, layer by layer, in silence. It's a peaceful reminder for all of us. Even the strongest, even the ancient, must change to stay graceful. Beneath the waves, a whale's skin whispers the simplest truth. To move freely, you must always keep letting go. In the cold Arctic seas, where the water glows blue beneath drifting ice, the narwhal glides silently, a small whale with a single spiraling tusk that looks like something from legend. To ancient sailors, it was proof of unicorns. To scientists today, it's something even more extraordinary. A living sensor that feels the sea itself. That tusk isn't a horn at all, but a tooth, one that can grow up to 3 meters long and twist in a perfect spiral. Inside are millions of tiny nerve endings that connect directly to the whale's brain. Through them, the narwhal can detect the faintest changes in its surroundings, temperature, pressure, even the saltiness of the water. It doesn't just touch the ocean, it reads it. When the narwhal moves through the Arctic currents, its tusk helps it sense where the water grows warmer or colder, where prey might gather, or where ice may be thinning above. It's a guide in a world where light fades quickly and silence reigns. Some researchers believe it even plays a role in communication, a way to share sensory information between whales, tapping or brushing tusks in greeting. It's easy to see why old myths gave it magic. A spiral of ivory piercing the cold, feeling what no human could ever sense. But its true magic lies not in fantasy, it's in awareness, in the quiet precision of a creature perfectly tuned to its world. In a sea of endless cold, the narwhal doesn't need sight or noise to understand. It listens through its tusk, letting the ocean speak in patterns only it can feel. Proof that even in silence, nature is alive with conversation. When a whale's long journey finally ends, the story doesn't stop. It only changes chapters. The giant body drifts downward through miles of blue, growing smaller as the light fades. It takes hours, sometimes days, before it reaches the bottom. And when it does, something miraculous begins. The seafloor welcomes it gently. Crabs, sharks, and deep-sea fish arrive first, feeding on the soft tissues. Then, slowly, other creatures gather. Worms, snails, and strange forms of life found nowhere else on Earth. They burrow, feed, and build their homes upon what remains. Scientists call this phenomenon a whale fall. Over time, the whale's bones release nutrients into the cold darkness, feeding bacteria that thrive in chemical reactions of decay. Those bacteria, in turn, sustain entire new ecosystems, colonies of life that can last for decades. What began as a single animal becomes an underwater forest of color and motion, glowing faintly in the eternal night. It's a quiet transformation, a final act of giving. Even in death, the whale nourishes the sea, returning everything it took from it. Some whale falls have been observed to support thousands of species, many of which exist only in these sacred places. If you could stand there, in the calm dark, you'd see beauty where most expect silence. You'd see the truth of nature's design, nothing wasted, nothing lost. The whale's final descent is not an ending, but a gift. From its vast body comes new life, new warmth, new stories whispered through the deep. And in that eternal stillness, the ocean remembers. Every beginning, every ending, all part of the same gentle rhythm. The ocean can be harsh, full of quiet hunts and ancient instincts. But sometimes something happens that seems to break those rules, a gesture of protection in a place where survival usually leaves no room for mercy. Off the coast of Antarctica, researchers once watched a seal fleeing from a group of orcas. The seal, exhausted and cornered, clung to an ice floe as the predators circled. Then, out of the deep, a pair of humpback whales appeared. One rolled beneath the seal, lifting it gently onto its chest. The orcas scattered. The humpback kept still, as if guarding a frightened guest, until the danger passed. It wasn't an isolated case. Over the years, scientists have recorded more than 100 incidents of humpbacks interfering with orca hunts, not only to protect seals, but sometimes gray whale calves, sea lions, or even other whales. The humpbacks bellow and thrash, positioning their massive bodies between predator and prey. No one knows exactly why. Some suggest it's instinct, a drive to defend against orcas who sometimes prey on young humpbacks. Others think it's empathy and awareness of suffering beyond their own kind. Whatever the reason, it's astonishing. These gentle giants, with hearts the size of cars, seem to feel something that reaches beyond survival. It's humbling to imagine a creature of such strength using it not to dominate, but to protect. In the endless ocean, where life and death move in constant rhythm, moments like these remind us that compassion isn't just human. It's part of nature's quiet wisdom. So when the waves roll softly and the sea feels endless, remember, somewhere out there, a whale once carried a frightened seal to safety, and the water itself remembers that kindness.
If you look closely at the skin of a whale, you'll see small, pale clusters clinging to its surface, tiny passengers called barnacles. They ride through oceans, carried for thousands of miles, growing in quiet spirals and ridges. To most people, they look like nothing more than decoration. But to scientists, they're maps, living records of where a whale has been. Barnacles begin their lives floating freely in the sea. When they find a whale, they attach themselves permanently, cementing to its skin with incredible strength. From that moment on, their fate is tied to the whale's journey. They feed by filtering the passing water, growing slowly as the whale moves through warm and cold currents across entire oceans. By studying the types and ages of barnacles, even the chemical makeup of their shells, researchers can trace where a whale has traveled. Some barnacles grow only in certain regions, so their presence tells a story. This one swam through polar waters. That one passed near tropical reefs. The whale's skin becomes a map, written not in ink, but in life itself. There's quiet poetry in that. Every journey leaves traces, small reminders of the distances crossed, the seasons endured. The whale doesn't know it carries these records, yet it bears the memory of its travels wherever it goes. When you see a whale rise from the water, its barnacles glinting like stars, you're seeing the story of migration shimmering on its back, proof that even the grandest voyages are marked by the smallest companions. In the end, it's a gentle truth. We all carry our journeys with us. For whales, they just happen to sparkle when the light hits the water.
For the largest animal on Earth, the blue whale has surprisingly modest eyes, each one about the size of a grapefruit. Tiny, really,
when you consider that this creature can stretch over 100 feet long and weigh more than an airplane. But in that small circle of sight lies an entire world of calm perception. A whale's eyes are dark and reflective, built to withstand the pressure and darkness of the deep. They see best in dim light, where blue and gray blur together in soft gradients. Their vision isn't sharp like ours, but it's sensitive, tuned to the shimmer of movement, the play of shadow, and the slow pulse of the sea. When a whale glides near the surface, you might see that eye break the water for a moment, glossy and still. It doesn't blink quickly or dart around. It simply watches. Some divers who have met whales up close say that gaze feels ancient, curious, but not afraid, like looking into something that has seen the world in a slower, deeper way. There's something humbling about that balance, a body vast enough to shake the ocean, guided by eyes so small and quiet. They don't need to see everything. They just need to understand where they are, the light above, the dark below, and life all around. If you could drift beside one, you might find that eye turning toward you for just a second. In that silent look, there's no judgment, no fear, only awareness, a gentle acknowledgement that, for a brief moment, two living beings are sharing the same blue world. The ocean is full of sound, not the kind we usually hear, but the kind we feel. Deep, slow vibrations that hum through the water like invisible waves of energy. Whales live in that world, and their hearing reaches far below ours, down to frequencies as low as 10 hertz. That sound is so deep we can't truly hear it at all. We can only feel it, like a tremor in the chest, or the faint quiver of the earth before thunder. To a whale, these tones aren't background noise, they're language. Their massive bodies are built to sense these low vibrations. Sound travels 4 times faster underwater than in air, and low frequencies carry the farthest of all. That means a single low rumble from a whale can travel across entire oceans, messages stretching thousands of miles, connecting lives that never meet. It's hard to imagine what that world must be like, to feel sound instead of hearing it, to sense the pulse of another creature through the water itself. Scientists think whales may use these deep notes for navigation, detecting the shape of the seafloor or the distance to distant islands by listening to echoes below the edge of human perception. While we listen to waves crashing or gulls crying, whales are hearing something older, slower, deeper. A planet-sized conversation below our awareness. If you've ever stood by the sea and felt a low vibration you couldn't place, maybe you've already touched that hidden rhythm. Somewhere far below, a whale might have been calling, not in a voice meant for ears, but for hearts tuned to the quiet power of the deep. In the gentle light of morning, a small humpback calf rises to the surface beside its mother. The water is calm, the sky soft with clouds, and then, without warning, a great splash echoes across the sea. The calf has flung its tail high into the air and smacked it down with surprising force, sending shimmering droplets flying.
Then it does it again and again. To anyone watching, it looks unmistakably like play. But for humpback calves, this joyful energy has a purpose. Each tail slap, each flick of a fin strengthens the muscles that will one day lift their massive bodies clear out of the water. It's practice, not just for power, but for grace. They're learning the rhythm of their world, one splash at a time. Sometimes other whales join in. A calf across the lagoon answers with its own tail slap, and the sound ripples through the bay like laughter. Scientists believe this behavior helps them build coordination and social bonds. In the wide, empty ocean, these playful gestures are their way of saying, "I'm here, I'm alive." Their mothers watch quietly nearby, patient and still. Every so often, the calf swims close to nuzzle against her, then returns to the surface to play again. It's a peaceful kind of joy, energy without fear, life in its purest rhythm. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The sound of the sea applauding, each wave answering with a soft clap. The calves don't know they're teaching us something, but they are. That play is not a luxury. It's how strength begins and how the ocean remembers to smile. Beneath the gray waves of the North Pacific, a group of orcas moves in perfect formation. Their sleek black and white bodies cut through the water with purpose, each turn and dive in sync. They're hunting, but what's remarkable isn't just their skill, it's their method. Because this group hunts differently than any other in the world. In Antarctica, orcas have been seen creating waves to knock seals off ice floes, approaching side by side, timing their dives to send water rushing forward like a living tide. In Patagonia, some risk everything by beaching themselves on purpose, grabbing sea lions before sliding back into the surf. In Norway, others herd herring into tight, glittering balls, stunning them with flicks of their tails. These aren't random acts, they're traditions, unique behaviors passed down through generations. Calves watch their elders, learning not just where to hunt, but how. Each pod carries its own set of customs, accents, and songs, distinct cultures shaped by geography, experience, and shared memory. In the quiet of the sea, that knowledge flows from one life to another, unseen but enduring. It's a reminder that culture isn't only human. Beneath the waves, it moves in black and white shadows, a wisdom sung through water, carried by families who've been telling the same stories for thousands of years. When a whale surfaces, the first thing you notice isn't its size or its shadow, it's the sound. A sudden rush of air, a deep sigh that cuts through the stillness. Then a mist rises, glowing in the light before it fades back into the sea. That sound, that breath, comes from its blowhole, which is, in truth, nothing more than its nose. Long ago, when the ancestors of whales still walked on land, their nostrils sat at the front of their faces, just like ours. But as they evolved to live in water, nature quietly moved those nostrils upward, millimeter by millimeter, generation by generation,
until they reached the top of the head. Now whales breathe without needing to lift their faces from the water. A simple, perfect adaptation for life between two worlds. When a whale exhales, the warm air from its lungs meets the cold ocean air, forming that iconic plume of mist, part breath, part cloud. Each species has its own distinct shape of spray, tall and narrow for the blue whale, heart-shaped for the right whale, bushy and wide for the humpback. To sailors long ago, these breaths were the ocean's own exhalations, proof that the sea was alive. It's humbling to think of something so ordinary, breathing, transformed into something so beautiful. A reminder that even the largest creatures pause for air, that life in every form begins with a breath and ends with one. So when you hear that distant whoosh across calm waters, imagine it not as noise, but as a greeting. The ocean breathing through its oldest inhabitants, one gentle sigh at a time. In the dark ocean at night, the water comes alive with a soft shimmer, a drifting galaxy of light. Tiny creatures, no larger than your fingertip, glow faintly as they move together in swarms. These are krill, shrimp-like beings that pulse with the faintest bioluminescence. And they are the heartbeat of the blue whale's world. Despite its enormous size, over 100 feet long, weighing more than 100 tons, the blue whale feeds almost entirely on these fragile, glowing specks. During feeding season, a single whale may consume up to 4 tons of krill in a day, swallowing mouthfuls of water larger than a bus. It opens wide, surges forward, and closes its jaws, using baleen plates to filter the seawater out and trap the swarm inside. It's a breathtaking sight, a giant gliding through clouds of living light, feeding on the shimmer of life itself. Each mouthful holds billions of tiny hearts, and together they sustain the largest creature ever to exist. There's quiet poetry in that contrast. The mightiest body powered by the smallest forms of life. No violence, no chase, only patience and rhythm. The blue whale simply drifts where the krill bloom, guided by instinct and the faint glow beneath the waves. If you could see them together in the deep, a colossal whale surrounded by drifting sparks, it would feel like watching the universe feed itself. Light sustaining shadow, strength nourished by gentleness. And maybe that's what the ocean teaches best. Greatness doesn't always come from what we conquer, but from what we humbly depend on, the small lives that keep the great ones alive. Beneath the waves, sound moves like light through glass, bending, bouncing, and echoing through the deep. When a whale calls, its voice doesn't fade into silence. It travels outward, striking the sea floor, mountains and valleys that lie hidden below. Each echo that returns carries a subtle imprint of the world it touched. In one part of the ocean, the echoes come back quickly, sharp and bright, like tapping on stone. In another, they return slow and deep, stretched by the vastness of underwater canyons. To a whale, these echoes aren't noise, they're maps. Each region's reflection is unique, a kind of acoustic signature. Scientists believe whales can recognize these patterns, the way their own songs sound when bounced through familiar waters. A humpback that was born near Hawaii may hear its call shaped in a way that feels like home. Another, raised in Antarctic bays, would know the soft, drawn-out hum of ice and distance. It's a beautiful thought that whales don't just swim through the ocean, they listen to it. Every mountain, ridge, and trench adds its own note to the symphony. The sea, in this way, speaks back to them, telling them where they are, where they've been, and where to go next. For us, sound fades quickly into memory, but for whales it lingers, an endless conversation between creature and world. Each echo is a reminder that every place, even one we can't see, has a voice. And somewhere out there, a whale is listening, hearing not just itself, but the shape of its home reflected in sound. High above the ocean, winds and clouds shape the weather. But deep below, something unexpected helps steady the planet's breath. Whales. These gentle giants, known for their songs and migrations, quietly nurture the ocean that sustains us all. They are, in a way, the planet's gardeners. When whales feed in the depths and rise to the surface, they release what scientists call fecal plumes, clouds of nutrient-rich waste that drift gently through the water. It doesn't sound glamorous, but those plumes are full of iron and nitrogen, the perfect fertilizer for microscopic life, plankton. Plankton may be tiny, but they are among Earth's most powerful forces. They float near the surface, capturing sunlight, absorbing carbon dioxide, and producing over half of the oxygen we breathe. Without them, the planet's balance would crumble. And without whales, plankton wouldn't thrive the way they do. Every time a whale dives, feeds, and surfaces, it stirs this living cycle, pulling nutrients upward, feeding the smallest organisms that in turn feed the world. Even in death, when whales sink to the ocean floor, their bodies trap massive amounts of carbon, keeping it out of the atmosphere for centuries. It's humbling to think of such quiet influence, the largest creatures on Earth nurturing the smallest, helping to cool the planet with every breath and dive. Whales don't know they're helping us, of course. They're simply living as they always have. Yet in doing so, they remind us that balance isn't built on power or control. It's built on giving and returning. So the next time the air feels fresh or the sky clear, remember the unseen gardeners of the sea, whales, tending the ocean's invisible garden, one peaceful plume at a time. Long ago, when maps ended in blank oceans and the stars were a sailor's only compass, the sea seemed endless, filled with mystery, danger, and wonder. Some who crossed those waters told stories of strange floating islands, vast dark shapes that rose from the deep, still as stone, and then suddenly moved. In old legends, they were called Aspidochelonies, island-sized creatures said to rest at the surface,
growing moss and coral on their backs. Sailors, mistaking them for land, would drop anchor or even light fires to cook their meals. But when the creature stirred, the island would sink, dragging the ship and crew into the depths. Centuries later, we learned that these islands were never land at all. They were whales, great slow beings sleeping near the surface. Whales enter a kind of drifting rest, their bodies barely moving, their breathing steady and deep. Seen from a distance, a whale sleeping at the surface can look like a patch of dark rock or an unmoving reef. It's not hard to imagine the awe of those early sailors, the sea calm, the horizon endless, and beneath them a living world they could scarcely understand. The line between myth and truth blurs easily out there, where dreams feel as real as waves. And perhaps that's the magic of it. Those sailors, without meaning to, created a legend that was truer than they knew. The ocean really does have islands that breathe, beings so vast and gentle they carry the illusion of land itself. Even today, when a whale sleeps at the surface under starlight, the sea still looks enchanted, a quiet world where the earth itself seems to rest and dream. When a blue whale feeds, the ocean seems to bend around it. With one enormous lunge, it opens its mouth and swallows a wave, not a small one, but an entire pocket of sea. In that single motion, the whale takes in as much water as would fill a swimming pool, and then some. It's hard to imagine the scale. The mouth can stretch wide enough to fit dozens of people side by side, expanding through folds of skin that unfurl like sails. Inside, the tongue, heavy as an elephant, presses upward, forcing the water back out through plates of baleen. These comb-like structures filter the meal, trapping the tiny krill that drift through the depths like glowing dust. The process looks effortless, but it's an orchestra of muscle and movement. The whale times its gulp with precision, gathering clouds of krill in a perfect sweep, then gliding onward as the ocean closes behind it. It repeats this over and over, a rhythm of feeding and drifting, as ancient as the tides. If you could float nearby, you'd see the sea pulse around it, drawn in and released like the world's slowest, deepest breath. Each gulp sustains its massive body, transforming the smallest lives into the strength of the largest. There's something humbling in that. The idea that the ocean's greatest giant feeds not through force or frenzy, but through grace. When the whale finishes and the water calms, it glides quietly beneath the surface again. And somewhere in that deep blue silence, the ocean seems to exhale, as if grateful that one of its own has taken just what it needs and nothing more.
When a whale rises from the deep, the first thing it does is breathe, a sharp exhale, a burst of mist and warmth, followed by a slow, steady inhale, both through the same opening, a single blowhole on top of its head. And yet, in all that motion, in all that power, the whale never chokes, never struggles.
Its body has perfected the art of breathing between two worlds. Unlike humans, whales can't breathe through their mouths at all. Their blowhole connects only to their lungs, while their mouth connects to their stomach, the two paths entirely separate. This means that even when their mouths are full of seawater and krill, their breath remains pure and clear. When they surface, a powerful muscle opens the blowhole, releasing a plume of air, then closes it tight before the whale dives again, a waterproof seal against the entire ocean. That single breath can fill lungs the size of a small car, exchanging nearly every bit of air inside. For a human, it would be like taking in a whole roomful of oxygen at once. Then, with calm precision, the whale glides back down, its body storing oxygen in blood and muscle, ready for the next long dive. There's something meditative about it, the rhythm of rising, breathing, and descending. No panic, no rush, just the steady cycle of life at a grand scale. The whale doesn't need to think about each breath. It simply knows when it's time. The ocean allows it to exhale and inhale in peace, one perfect rhythm after another, never choking, never gasping, only breathing in harmony with the sea. In the deep ocean, light fades quickly. A few hundred feet below the surface, colors vanish. By 1,000, darkness becomes nearly complete. Yet the whales that live there move with effortless confidence. They see without eyes, not through light, but through sound. Inside the rounded forehead of every toothed whale lies something extraordinary, a soft, dome-like organ called the melon. It isn't bone or muscle, but a dense, jelly-like tissue made of special fats. When a whale clicks, the sound travels through the melon, which shapes it and focuses it into a narrow beam, like a lens, but for sound instead of light. Those sound waves bounce off the world around them, schools of fish, ocean cliffs, even the shifting current of another whale's body. The echoes return, and the whale's mind transforms them into a detailed picture of the unseen. Through echolocation, a sperm whale can detect a squid hundreds of meters away, not by sight, but by listening to the shape of space itself. To us, it's almost unimaginable, turning sound into images, creating a map from vibration. But for the whale, it's natural. The melon is its compass, its flashlight, its window to the world. And there's poetry in that. In the silent dark, where light fails, a whale can still find its way, not through brightness, but through resonance. Perhaps there's a lesson there for us too, that vision doesn't always come from eyes, and clarity doesn't always come from light. Sometimes seeing means listening deeply, hearing the world until it reveals its shape. In the cool, shallow waters near the coast, a gray whale drifts slowly downward until its massive body brushes the sandy floor. Then, with a gentle twist, it begins to roll.
The movement stirs up clouds of golden silt that shimmer in the filtered sunlight, wrapping the whale in a haze of soft motion. It's not play, it's care. The whale is giving itself a bath. Over time, barnacles and small crustaceans attach themselves to a whale's skin, clinging tightly as it travels through the ocean. They don't hurt much, but they itch, they drag, they weigh. So every now and then, a gray whale does what any creature would do. It finds a way to feel clean again. By rolling and rubbing against the sand, it scrapes off the unwanted hitchhikers and loosens the old dead skin beneath. Observers watching from above see only a ripple of sediment, but within that cloud is an intimate ritual, one the whale may have performed countless times. When it rises again, its skin is smoother, its body lighter, its movement freer. It's easy to imagine the relief of it, the touch of sand against thick hide, the gentle friction, the rhythm of renewal. The ocean floor becomes a kind of spa, silent, weightless, infinite. There's something beautiful about that instinct, a reminder that even in the wildest places, life seeks comfort, cleansing, balance. The gray whale doesn't need help to feel new again. It just drifts downward, finds the sand, and lets the sea itself restore it. When a whale begins its long journey across the sea, it often does so on an empty stomach. For months at a time, through thousands of miles of open water, it will not eat. Instead, it drifts and glides, fueled only by the energy it stored during the feeding season, a deep, invisible reserve carried beneath its skin. That reserve is blubber, thick layers of fat that serve as both insulation and energy storage. In the cold of the ocean, it keeps the whale warm. In the emptiness of migration, it keeps the whale alive. Some species, like humpbacks and gray whales, feed heavily in the rich polar waters during summer, building up enough blubber to sustain them through their long travels to the tropics to breed and give birth. While we might think of hunger as weakness, whales have turned it into rhythm. Their hearts slow, their bodies become more efficient, burning energy gradually, almost peacefully. Even while fasting, they continue to sing, to guide their calves, to move through waters they've known for generations. There's a strange kind of serenity in it, the willingness to let the body rest on what it has already gathered. No hurry, no panic, no waste, just movement and trust. For humans, fasting is often a struggle of will. For whales, it's simply part of existence, a reminder that nature has its seasons of plenty and its seasons of stillness. So as they glide through moonlit water, silent and strong, they remind us that endurance doesn't always come from taking more. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let the ocean carry you until it's time to feed again. Inside the mouth of a whale lies one of nature's quietest miracles. Not rows of sharp teeth, but hundreds of long, flexible plates that hang like combs from the roof of the mouth. These are baleen plates, made of the same substance as our fingernails, keratin. But here, that simple material becomes an elegant tool for feeding an ocean giant. When a whale opens its mouth, it takes in an enormous gulp of seawater, full of krill, plankton, and small fish.
Then, with a slow and powerful motion, it closes its jaws and presses its massive tongue upward. The water streams out through the baleen plates, but the food stays trapped inside, caught by the fine fringes that line each plate like silky hairs. What's left is a mouthful of nourishment, sifted perfectly from the sea. It's a method built on patience and grace, not speed or violence. The whale doesn't chase or bite. It simply filters the ocean, one gentle sweep at a time. And though it feeds on creatures too small to see from above, those tiny lives sustain the largest animal on Earth. Centuries ago, humans used baleen for corsets, umbrellas, and brush bristles, calling it whalebone. But its true brilliance was never in what it could make for us. It was in what it made possible for the whales, the ability to thrive through simplicity. In the rhythm of feeding, there's something almost meditative. Open, glide, press, breathe. Over and over, an ancient cycle of balance. If you listen closely, you might imagine the faint hum of water moving through those natural combs, the ocean's quiet applause for an invention older than time itself. Deep inside the massive head of a sperm whale lies a secret chamber, a great glowing mystery that once fascinated sailors and scientists alike. It's called the spermaceti-organ, and it can hold more than 500 gallons of a clear, waxy, oil-like fluid. To early whalers, it seemed otherworldly, a substance drawn from the deepest waters that could, remarkably, burn with a steady, bright flame. For centuries, this oil was one of the most valuable materials on Earth. Ships hunted sperm whales across every ocean, not for food, but for this light. When refined, spermaceti burned cleanly, without smoke, and became the fuel for the world's finest lamps. In a strange irony, the glow that once illuminated human homes came from the head of a creature that lived in near total darkness. But in the whale's world, the oil served a far nobler purpose. It helps the sperm whale dive, controlling its buoyancy and focusing the clicks it uses for echolocation. By shifting the density of this fluid, the whale can sink deep into the cold, dark ocean in search of giant squid, and then rise effortlessly back toward the light. Today, no one hunts whales for oil anymore. The lamps have gone out, replaced by gentler light. Yet the story remains, a reminder of how closely wonder and destruction once stood side by side. It's comforting to know that now the light belongs to the whale again, not in our lamps, but in our understanding, that what we once took from the sea, we now protect, letting the great swimmers of the deep carry their quiet brilliance through the dark, untouched. Far out at sea, a sudden burst of movement breaks the horizon. A whale rises, twisting its immense body into the air. For a brief moment, it seems weightless, a mountain of muscle and water suspended between sea and sky. Then, with a sound like distant thunder, it falls. The ocean erupts, and the echo rolls for miles beneath the surface. This act, called breaching, is one of the most spectacular sights in the natural world. But behind its beauty lies mystery. Why would a creature so massive spend so much energy to leap like that? Scientists believe part of the answer is communication. The sound of a whale's body slamming back into the sea can be heard by others across great distances, traveling faster and farther underwater than in air. Each breach sends a deep, low-frequency pulse through the ocean, like a drum beat, a message carried by vibration. It may say, "I'm here," or "Follow me," or "This is my territory." In other cases, it might simply be joy, the animal's own way of feeling the water, the air, the sheer power of its existence. Watching a breach feels like witnessing language take physical form. The air fills with spray, the sea shudders with sound, and for a moment silence follows, as if the ocean itself is listening. Maybe that's what communication really is, the meeting of energy and intention, expressed without words. For whales, it's not speech, but motion, language written in splash and echo. Somewhere out there tonight, in the moonlit waves, a whale rises again, and as it falls, its body speaks, in rhythm, in sound, in the ancient language of the deep. For all their size and mystery, whales carry a small and tender reminder of where they come from, a simple mark on their underside, easily overlooked in all that vast blue skin, a belly button. Like us, whales or mammals, they don't hatch or spawn, they're born alive, nurtured and connected to their mothers before their first breath. Inside the mother's body, a baby whale grows, receiving nourishment through an umbilical cord, a lifeline that links heartbeat to heartbeat. When it's born, the cord detaches, leaving behind a small, round scar. On a creature longer than a bus, it's barely noticeable, but it's there, quiet proof that even giants begin in tenderness. When a whale calf enters the world, it rises quickly to the surface to take its first breath. Its mother helps guide it upward, supporting it with gentle nudges. The moment that first rush of air fills its lungs, life begins anew, and the mark it carries beneath its skin becomes part of that story. Scientists sometimes use that little scar to tell how long ago a whale was born, or to identify individuals. But beyond that, it's simply a symbol, the ocean's smallest reminder that even its largest beings are bound by the same threads of birth, care, and connection as all mammals. It's humbling to imagine a creature that weighs more than 100 tons, yet bears the same small sign of origin that we do. In the end, the belly button is more than biology. It's a memory of warmth before water, of a bond unseen but eternal. Proof that no matter how immense or distant life becomes, we all begin the same way, held, connected, and waiting to take our first breath. Once the oceans sang. Across thousands of miles, the low, rolling voices of blue whales echoed through the water.
deep notes so powerful they could travel from one side of the world to the other. The sea was never silent. It was alive with sound, an endless chorus of calls and replies that bound distant wails together in rhythm and memory. But the ocean has grown louder. Today it hums with the noise of human movement, the engines of cargo ships, the pulse of sonar, the constant mechanical rumble that never stops. To us, it's background noise. To a whale, it's a wall of confusion. Their songs, once the loudest natural sounds on Earth, are now masked, scattered, and lost among the waves. Scientists who record the deep sea have noticed the change. A century ago, the calls of blue whales filled their instruments with long, clear tones. Now, those same frequencies are buried beneath layers of human noise. For creatures that rely on sound to find mates, navigate, and communicate, this isn't just an inconvenience, it's isolation. Still, whales keep singing. Some have even begun to lower the pitch of their songs, adapting to the new acoustic world around them. Their voices are softer now, but they persist, patient, resilient, and full of the same ancient rhythm. It's humbling to think that the ocean remembers a time before our noise, when its deepest places were ruled not by engines, but by music. Perhaps one day, as the seas grow quieter again, those songs will rise once more, unbroken, unmasked, and the world will hear the ocean's true voice returning, slow and deep, like the memory of peace itself. In the dim blue quiet of the ocean, a mother whale drifts slowly with her calf tucked close to her side. Around them, the sea is vast and cold, but here, in this small circle of movement, it is warm. The calf nudges gently beneath her, searching for milk, and as it drinks, the mother begins to hum. The sound is soft, lower than human hearing can fully capture, a deep, rhythmic vibration that pulses through the water like the beat of a heart. Scientists who have recorded these sounds describe them as murmurs, almost lullabies. They seem to calm the calf, guiding its breathing, perhaps even helping it recognize its mother's unique voice. In the open sea, where vision fades quickly, sound becomes touch. That humming becomes a form of holding, a vibration the calf can feel through its skin, a melody of safety and love. Each note rolls through the water, rising and falling in slow waves that could lull even the ocean to rest. As the calf nurses, gaining strength for its first great journey, the mother keeps humming, never rushing, never stopping. The rhythm echoes her heartbeat, steady, ancient, full of peace. It's a sound not meant to travel far, only to fill the small space between two lives that belong entirely to each other. Some say love is language, but in the ocean, love is rhythm. It's the hum of a mother keeping her child close, the song of care written in sound instead of words. If you could listen closely beneath the waves, you might hear it too, the ocean's most tender music, a lullaby older than time.
In the vastness of the open sea, where horizons stretch endlessly and solitude seems inevitable, some creatures have chosen never to be alone. Among them are the pilot whales. Social, loyal, and deeply connected, they live in family pods so close-knit that many stay together for life. A pod might have a few dozen members, sometimes more. Within it are mothers, calves, brothers and grandmothers, generations moving as one. When they swim, they glide in perfect rhythm, turning and diving together like a single organism. Their calls, clicks, whistles, and soft pulses weave through the water, a language only they understand. Each pod has its own unique dialect, a shared voice that marks who belongs. Scientists have watched pilot whales care for injured relatives, share food, and even stay beside those who have passed, unwilling to leave them behind. When one whale is distressed, others gather around, pressing their bodies close, as if to hold it in the only way the ocean allows. Their loyalty is so deep that pods sometimes strand together on shorelines, refusing to abandon one another even in danger. It's tragic, but also profoundly moving, proof of bonds stronger than instinct. To live your whole life in company, to know the same voices, swim the same paths, share the same songs, is rare in nature's restless world. Yet, for pilot whales, family is not just survival, it's identity. In a sea that stretches farther than sight, they always know where home is. Not a place, but the presence of one another. And somewhere, in the dark calm beneath the waves, they still travel, side by side, hearts and echoes bound by the sound of belonging. If you could look beneath the smooth curve of a whale's flipper, past skin, muscle, and sinew, you'd find something astonishingly familiar. Inside that graceful fin lies a hand, not a hand that can grasp or reach, but one that still carries the same bones as yours, a humerus, a radius, a set of finger-like phalanges, all arranged in quiet memory of the past. Long ago, the ancestors of whales walked on land. They had legs and arms and small dexterous hands that helped them move through ancient riverbanks. Over millions of years, those hands changed shape, adapting to a new life in water. Fingers grew longer, joints fused, and the once flexible wrist stiffened into a powerful paddle. But evolution didn't erase the blueprint. It simply reshaped it. Today, when a whale moves its flipper, it's as if that ancient limb is still waving through time, a living connection between land and sea, between what once was and what remains. Scientists who study whale anatomy often marvel at this continuity, calling it a testament to evolution's patience, nature never starting over, only transforming. There's something tender about that idea. Inside a creature so vast, so different,
lies the echo of a hand, a reminder that life's designs are shared, that beneath the skin of whales and humans alike lies the same story written in bone. So when a whale raises its fin to the surface, breaking the water with a slow, deliberate motion, imagine it as a kind of greeting, a wave across millions of years, the hand of the past still reaching, still moving gracefully through the blue. When a whale rises from the cold, shadowed depths into the sunlight above, something subtle happens beneath its skin. For a brief moment, the great blue-gray surface takes on a faint warmth of color, a soft flush that spreads gently along its body. It looks, impossibly, as though the whale is blushing. Scientists have observed this phenomenon in several species, including blue whales, fin whales, and especially belugas. As the animal ascends toward warmer water, it opens tiny blood vessels near the skin surface, allowing heat to escape after the long, chilled depths below. The rush of blood creates that gentle pink hue, not emotion, but circulation, nature's way of cooling the body with quiet grace. It's easy to imagine, though, a kind of shy warmth in the act, a whale surfacing after a long dive, its skin glowing faintly beneath the sun, the ocean light refracting off every curve. In those moments, the vast creature seems almost delicate, its enormous strength softened by the faintest touch of color. For beluga whales, this blush is even more visible. Their pale white skin can turn rosy when they swim in summer shallows, their bodies shimmering with a warmth that looks alive, as if the cold Arctic Sea itself has learned to smile. It's a reminder that even giants are moved by change, that beauty in nature often lives in the smallest details, a shift of blood beneath skin, a fleeting shimmer in the water, a heartbeat visible for just an instant. In the endless blue, where so much remains unseen, a blushing whale is a gentle miracle, a quiet pulse of life made visible beneath the surface of the sea.
If you look closely at a whale's back, you might see faint white lines or patches, long curved marks etched into the skin like brushstrokes. To some, they look like blemishes, but to those who understand the sea, they're something else entirely. Proof of survival. Many whales, especially young ones, are attacked by orcas. The encounters are fierce, flashes of teeth and speed in the deep. Yet more often than not, the whale escapes, carrying with it the evidence of the battle. Crescent-shaped scars from orca bites, claw-like marks from collisions, or healed tears along the tail from the chase. Over time, these wounds fade but never vanish. They become part of the whale's story, the ocean's way of remembering what the creature has endured. In sunlight, those scars can shimmer pale against dark skin, catching the light like silver threads. Scientists use them to identify individuals, tracing their migrations year after year. But beyond science, there's something quietly noble about them, a language of resilience written directly on the body. The whale doesn't mourn its scars. It carries them with calm dignity, continuing its migrations, feeding, singing, birthing new life. In the ocean, where every creature bears the marks of living, strength is not the absence of harm. It's the grace that follows it. Perhaps that's why whales seem so peaceful. They know what it means to be hurt and to heal. Their scars are reminders that even in the wildest struggles, life endures, steady and sure. So when the sun glints off a scarred back breaking the surface, remember, that gleam is victory, not over others, but over time, pain, and the deep itself. On a cold morning at sea, when the air is still and the water lies flat as glass, a sudden sound breaks the silence, a deep, hollow exhale, followed by a burst of mist rising from the surface. It lasts only a moment, a soft white plume that twists gently in the breeze before fading away. That is the breath of a whale, the ocean made visible for just an instant. When a whale surfaces, it exhales warm air from its lungs through the blowhole on top of its head. That breath, heated by the body's core, meets the chill of the open air and condenses instantly into a cloud of vapor. Each whale species creates a slightly different shape, tall and narrow for a blue whale, heart-shaped for a right whale, wide and bushy for a humpback. To experienced eyes, these misty forms are like signatures drifting above the sea. To watch it is to witness life written in breath. No engine, no noise, just a single ancient rhythm. Rise, exhale, inhale, disappear. The plume lingers for a heartbeat, then melts into the air as the whale slips quietly back beneath the surface. That cloud of breath is a reminder of how alive the ocean truly is, not still or silent, but full of invisible lungs breathing in rhythm with the world. If you ever see one, watch closely. In that soft burst of mist is the simplest truth of all. Even the largest beings live one breath at a time. And somewhere far below, another is already rising, preparing to breathe again. Another sigh, another cloud, another signature of life across the water. Far below the rolling waves, in the deep blue where sunlight fades into quiet, a single voice begins to sing. It starts softly, a pattern of low moans, rising wails, and gentle cries. Then, somewhere hundreds of miles away, another whale joins in, matching tone for tone, breath for breath. Soon the ocean fills with a chorus, one song carried by many, echoing across entire basins of water. These are the voices of humpback whales, and their songs are among the most haunting sounds on Earth. Each song can last up to 30 minutes, and whales repeat them for hours, sometimes days. What's more astonishing is that whales from the same region sing nearly identical songs, changing them gradually over time. And somehow those new melodies spread across oceans. Scientists have tracked these shifting patterns, watching how a new verse sung off the coast of Australia slowly appears months later near Polynesia, and then across the Pacific. No messenger carries it, yet the music travels, passed from whale to whale, pod to pod,
a living symphony that drifts with the currents. No one knows exactly why they sing, to attract mates, to communicate, perhaps to remember. But the beauty lies in the connection itself, a shared language made not of words, but of rhythm and resonance, filling a world that has no walls. When you listen to a recording of humpbacks, you hear more than sound. You hear a conversation that began long before us, one that spans thousands of miles of open water. And somewhere tonight, beneath a blanket of stars, the ocean still hums with their harmony, the choir of the sea, singing softly to itself in the dark. In the quiet hours of the ocean, when sunlight dims and the surface glows with a faint silver hue, the whales begin to rest. They do not sink into deep slumber as we do. Instead, they drift, slow, steady, always near the surface. There, just below the air, they sleep lightly, their bodies still, their hearts calm, and one half of their mind awake. Whales are conscious breathers. Every breath they take must be chosen, not automatic. Even in rest, they must remember to rise, to exhale, to live. So they sleep where the distance to air is short, their reflex to breathe never far away. Scientists watching them describe the scene as dreamlike, a whale floating upright, unmoving, as if suspended between worlds. Sometimes groups of them sleep together, motionless, rising gently with each slow tide. Their blowholes break the surface now and then, releasing a soft puff of mist before sinking again into the dark. It's easy to imagine that the sea itself slows down to match their rhythm. In this half-sleep, they are never truly unaware, yet never burdened. It is a balance, the body at peace, the mind at ease, the breath unbroken. It's how they have survived for millions of years, by learning to rest without forgetting the world around them. It's a lesson hidden in the deep, that peace doesn't always mean escape, and rest doesn't require complete silence. Sometimes it's enough to float close to the surface, half dreaming, half listening, simply breathing. And as they drift beneath the stars, the whales remind us, even in stillness, life continues, slow, aware, and beautifully alive. Far below the sunlit waves, the ocean turns to twilight. Down there, where only blue light survives the descent, certain whales take on a quiet radiance. Their undersides shimmer faintly, not from any inner light, but from how their skin scatters what little brightness still remains. This glow is not like the lanterns of bioluminescent creatures. It isn't fire or flame, but reflection, a trick of structure. Tiny microscopic layers within the whale's skin bend and scatter blue wavelengths, creating a soft gleam that moves with every pulse of muscle. To the human eye, it would seem like moonlight gliding over silk. For the whale, this faint glow serves a purpose. Against the filtered light from above, it helps them blend into the water, a form of camouflage known as countershading. To the predators or prey below, the glowing underside makes them nearly invisible, the outline of a giant softened into the surrounding blue. It's a kind of magic born from physics, beauty that asks for no attention, light that exists only because the sea allows it. The effect deepens as the whale moves, every ripple of water catching a different shade until the body becomes a moving mirror of the ocean itself. To think of such a vast creature glowing so faintly is to understand quiet strength, power that doesn't need to dazzle, only to move gracefully through the whirl. Somewhere beneath the surface, whales still drift through that endless cobalt light, luminous not by nature's fire, but by the borrowed glow of the sea that cradles them. Every ocean has its own voice, and within those vast waters, every whale family speaks a little differently. Scientists listening to their songs through hydrophones began to notice patterns, small changes in rhythm, tone, and pitch that separated one pod's calls from another's. Over time, they realized what they were hearing wasn't just variation, it was culture. Each pod has a distinct dialect, a way of speaking that identifies who belongs and who doesn't. Some orcas, for example, use sharp, pulsing clicks that rise and fall in short bursts. Others favor longer, flowing tones. Sperm whales trade sequences called codas, rhythmic clicks that carry unique signatures, the acoustic equivalent of an accent. These dialects don't come from instinct alone. They are learned, passed from one generation to the next. Calves grow up surrounded by their family's sounds, imitating and adapting them just as human children pick up speech. In this way, each pod preserves its identity, its history, its sense of belonging, not through appearance or place, but through voice. To drift among them is to hear an ocean alive with languages. Every call means something specific, yet also something deeply emotional. Recognition, reunion, warning, comfort. The sea itself becomes a living archive of communication, filled with countless dialects shaped by time and distance. It's humbling to think that somewhere far below, whales are conversing in actions shaped by their ancestors, a melody of heritage woven into sound. Their words dissolve quickly into the water, but their meaning endures. That connection, spoken or sung, is what keeps the ocean alive with memory. A whale's dorsal fin cuts cleanly through the surface, a simple, unmistakable silhouette rising against the sea. To most eyes, it's just a physical trait, a marker of species or size. But to those who study them, that fin is a kind of language, one that speaks softly of mood, energy, and presence. When a whale glides slowly through calm water, its dorsal fin curves gently, following the body's rhythm with quiet ease. The motion is smooth, unhurried, a sign of peace. During moments of excitement or alertness, the fin stiffens, slicing the surface with precision. In social groups, especially among orcas, the fin tilts and flexes as they turn toward each other, a kind of silent gesture in conversation. Each individual has its own distinct shape, tall, curved, or slightly bent, And even these details can shift subtly with time or emotion. A tired whale's fin may droop just a little more after long hours of travel. A playful one may sway, breaking the surface again and again in gentle arcs. Scientists have learned to read these signs like moods written in motion, fleeting but full of meaning. It's remarkable that something so simple, a single ridge of flesh and muscle, can reveal such depth of feeling. Whales, though wordless, express themselves constantly through the language of their bodies, the sweep of a tail, the rhythm of a breath, the angle of a fin. Perhaps that's why watching them feels so peaceful. You're not just seeing movement, you're witnessing emotion in its purest form, steady, fluid, and as changeable as the sea itself.
Long before science began to study whales, the Inuit people of the Arctic already understood their greatness. In their oldest stories, the bowhead whale is not just an animal, it is a keeper of memory, a guardian of all that the sea has seen. These whales live for more than 2 centuries, older than any human alive today. Some still swim through Arctic waters, carrying stone harpoon tips embedded in their flesh, traces of hunts from a century and a half ago. To the Inuit, that endurance meant something sacred. The bowhead remembered. It carried the knowledge of storms, migrations, and the old songs of ice long before written history began. Elders told of whales that listened to the ocean's past, of creatures that held the wisdom of balance between people and the sea. When hunters spoke of them, it was never with arrogance, but with gratitude. Taking a bowhead was both a gift and a conversation with something ancient, something aware. Modern science now confirms what legend always suggested. These whales truly are archives of time. Layers in their earwax record every year of their lives, a timeline of the ocean itself, marked in fat and pigment. It's easy to see why the Inuit believed they were keepers of memory. Their calm eyes have watched centuries of change, the shifting ice, the fading stars of the north, the silent passing of generations. To think of a creature living that long, carrying so much within its heart, is to understand humility. Some stories live in words, others move through water. And somewhere beneath the Arctic ice, a bowhead still glides slowly through history, remembering for all of us. Every sound in the ocean begins as a vibration. Waves striking stone, wind brushing the surface, the distant call of another whale, all of it travels through water as pressure, movement, pulse. For whales, these vibrations are not just heard, they are felt. Their skulls are vast and sensitive, built not only to protect the brain, but to conduct sound. When a low-frequency wave passes through the water, it reaches the whale's bones and resonates there, traveling through the dense structure like a quiet bell tone. The sound doesn't need to pass through ears alone.
It enters through the whole head, carrying a complete map of where it came from and what it means. Scientists call this bone conduction. It allows whales to sense sounds far below human hearing, deep rolling vibrations that can travel across entire oceans. Through this, they know when storms are coming, when other pods are near, and perhaps even when danger approaches. It's as though the sea speaks directly into their bodies. Listening for whales is not an act of attention, it's a state of being. They live surrounded by constant music, the faint crack of ice, the rumble of the earth below, the far-off song of a companion they may never see. Every vibration becomes part of their awareness, absorbed quietly through bone, blood, and thought. To imagine such hearing is to imagine empathy, to feel the world instead of just hearing it. Perhaps that's why whales seem so calm. They don't listen with ears alone, but with the whole self. Bodies tuned to the ocean's every whisper, every sigh, every pulse of life beneath the waves. A single whale sings somewhere deep beneath the waves. Long, rising notes that roll through the dark like echoes through a cathedral. The melody flows, builds, and then suddenly stops. For a few moments, the ocean goes silent. The whale waits. Nothing moves except the current. Then, from far away, another voice answers. Scientists have listened to thousands of whale songs through underwater microphones and noticed something remarkable: the pauses. Between verses, whales often stop singing, holding still in the water, as though waiting for a reply. These pauses aren't random. They seem deliberate, patient, like part of a conversation carried across miles of sea. A whale's song can travel hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles underwater. The low frequencies move through the deep like rolling thunder, bouncing off cliffs, canyons, and the curve of the earth itself. Each note takes time to reach its destination, and so the singers must wait, suspended in that quiet, listening for a distant answer that may take minutes to return. In those pauses lies something deeply human, the act of listening, not just speaking. The whale's silence is not emptiness, it's awareness, a moment of openness to the voices beyond its sight. It's easy to picture them, drifting in the still blue, songs carried by invisible waves, each one calling and waiting, not for noise, but for connection. Perhaps the sea itself is their audience, a vast body that listens and replies through echoes. And in that slow exchange of sound and silence, the ocean becomes what it has always been, a place of conversation, too ancient and too beautiful for haste. From the deck of a quiet ship, the horizon looks endless, just water and sky blending into one. Then, far ahead, a flash of movement breaks the stillness. A single column of mist rises, shining silver in the sun, 30 feet tall and gone in seconds. It isn't wind or wave, it's the breath of a blue whale. That plume begins deep inside the whale's vast lungs, which can hold over 1,000 gallons of air. When it surfaces after a long dive, it exhales with immense force, warm air meeting cold ocean air in an instant cloud of vapor. To the human eye, it looks like a fountain. To the whale, it's simply breathing. The exhale travels at nearly 300 miles per hour, faster than a storm wind, yet there's nothing violent about it. It's rhythm, the sea's oldest sigh. The plume hangs for a heartbeat before vanishing, leaving only the faint shimmer of moisture drifting in sunlight. For centuries, sailors watched for that sight, the tall, straight spout of the blue whale, to know where life was moving beneath the waves. Each species has its own breath pattern, a distinct silhouette that serves as identity, a living signature written in air. There's something humbling about that contrast. A creature large enough to move oceans, revealing itself through something as soft as mist. Every exhale is a reminder that the ocean breathes too, slow, immense, and gentle. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another plume will rise, touch the sky for a moment, and disappear. Proof that life continues, quietly and endlessly, beneath the sunlit sea. Across the open ocean, a dark shape glides just below the surface. For a moment, it's still. Then 2 great fins rise out of the water like wings. They move slowly, tracing wide arcs that shimmer in sunlight before folding back into the blue. These are the pectoral fins of a humpback whale, the largest appendages in the animal kingdom. Each one can span over 15 feet, nearly a third of the whale's entire body length. With them, humpbacks steer, turn and twist through the sea with remarkable precision. Despite weighing up to 40 tons, they move with the ease of dancers, rolling gracefully on their sides, sometimes using a single fin to glide in spirals. The fins are lined with long ridges that break up water flow, allowing smoother movement, a natural design so efficient that engineers have studied it to improve airplane wings and turbine blades. Evolution sculpted them not for brute power, but for control, tools of balance in a world without gravity. When humpbacks breach, those massive fins sometimes spread wide as they leap, gleaming white beneath the surface. For a heartbeat, they look like wings of light, lifting the ocean's heaviest bodies into the air. There's poetry in that motion, the meeting of strength and softness. A creature so vast, choosing to move gently, letting the sea guide every turn. Each sweep of a humpback's fin is a reminder that grace isn't smallness, it's mastery. And somewhere, far from shore, those wide arms still carve slow arcs through the water, wings that will never leave the sea, but still know the feeling of flight.
Miles below the surface, the pressure of the sea crushes with a force strong enough to crush steel. Down there, every heartbeat slows, every sound grows thick, and light dissolves into blue-black silence. Yet, even in that world of pressure, a whale's gaze remains calm, its eyes clear, unharmed, quietly watching. Inside each eye lies a remarkable defense, a thick jelly-like fluid that cushions it from the immense weight of the deep. This substance fills the space around the lens and cornea, holding its shape even when the outside pressure climbs to hundreds of atmospheres. It's soft to the touch, but powerful in purpose, the ocean's own version of armor. Because of this, whales can dive thousands of feet without their vision distorting or their eyes collapsing. They see dim outlines, flickers of motion, the faint silver of rising bubbles. Their pupils expand wide to capture what little light remains, while that gel keeps the delicate structures stable, always ready to meet the next plunge. It's humbling to think that something so tender, an eye, a window into thought, can survive where almost nothing else can. Strength in the whale's world isn't hardness, it's flexibility, adaptation, trust in the body's quiet design. When the whale rises again, its eyes reflect the light of the surface, still clear after the crushing dark below. That clarity feels almost symbolic, a vision that endures pressure and returns unchanged. In those eyes lies the perfect balance between fragility and resilience, softness built to survive the deep, and sight that keeps believing in light even after the ocean has taken it away. Before a whale dives, its body begins to prepare, not with panic, but with precision. The heartbeat slows, the blood thickens with oxygen, and deep inside, the stomach grows still. The processes that once busied themselves with breaking down food now pause, waiting patiently for the dive to end. Scientists have discovered that whales can slow or nearly halt their digestion while descending into the depths. It's a quiet act of conservation, a way to direct precious oxygen toward what matters most, the heart, the brain, and the powerful muscles that carry them through darkness. While their bodies glide downward, their inner world drifts into calm silence. At depths where the pressure could crush a submarine, every unnecessary motion fades. The blood retreats from the outer body to protect the core. The lungs collapse safely, and digestion simply waits, as if the body itself knows that survival is not about doing more, but about doing less. This ability allows whales to stay underwater for an hour or more, sometimes far longer, searching for squid or simply traveling in peace. And when they return to the surface, their systems wake again, slowly, without rush, heartbeat quickening, stomach stirring, breath returning. There's something profoundly peaceful in that rhythm, the trust between body and sea, the confidence in stillness. The whale doesn't fight the deep, it flows with it, surrendering to the ocean's quiet will. Perhaps that's the secret to endurance, knowing when to move and when to rest so completely that even your heartbeat and hunger become part of the same steady silence.
A newborn whale is already immense by human standards, yet beside its mother, it looks small, almost fragile. The pair moves together through the water as one. The mother glides slowly, her strokes wide and measured, while her calf presses close to her side, barely moving at all. It isn't laziness, it's trust. The calf is riding the invisible slipstream of her body. When a large whale swims, it displaces a column of water that flows smoothly behind and alongside her. That current forms a pocket of gentle motion, a hidden cradle that carries the calf forward with less effort. By staying tucked into that current, the young whale saves precious energy, vital for growing, breathing, and surviving long journeys through the sea. Scientists call this formation echelon swimming, and it's one of the most tender sights in the ocean. A baby whale, nestled just beneath the curve of its fin, matching her rhythm, moving where she moves. The calf's world is her shadow, her warmth, her protection, her path. Together, they can travel thousands of miles this way, across open waters where no land breaks the horizon. Each motion the mother makes is both guidance and gift. She clears the current, and her child drifts within it. It's a quiet lesson written in movement, that love isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it's just the act of creating calm where another can rest, of making space in your wake so someone smaller can move forward more easily. In the endless blue, a mother whale keeps swimming, and behind her, the ocean itself becomes gentler, just so her child can follow. Every sound made by a whale carries the ocean inside it. Their songs don't rush or stumble. They writhe, stretch, and fall in long waves of sound, matching the sea's endless rhythm. To listen is to hear water itself speaking, translated through flesh and bone. Scientists studying humpback songs noticed a pattern. The timing, pitch, and repetition of each phrase resemble the pulse of waves rolling over one another. Each note flows into the next, never sharp or hurried, but curved and continuous. It's as though the whales learn to sing by listening to the sea around them, echoing its movements, breathing in time with the tides. This slow repetition has a purpose. In the deep, sound travels far, but only when it moves steadily. The whale's long, measured tones cut through the layers of water with precision, reaching companions miles away. The rhythm ensures that the message endures, looping endlessly until it finds its listener. But beyond biology, there's poetry. The whale's music doesn't sound separate from the sea. It is the sea. The ocean shapes the voice, and the voice reshapes the ocean in return, vibrating through it like memory. If you've ever stood near the shore and felt the waves roll in steady patterns, you've felt the same rhythm that guides their songs, the same patience, the same timeless repetition. Perhaps that's why their music feels so calming. because it belongs to something we already know deep within us, the rhythm of breath, of heartbeats, of tides that never stop. The ocean sings, and the whales remember the tune. Across the vastness of the oceans, where no road or landmark can be seen, whales travel with astonishing precision. Each year, they follow routes that stretch for thousands of miles, from polar feeding grounds to warm tropical nurseries and back again. What's remarkable is not just the distance, but the memory. Many of these paths have been used for thousands of years, traced again and again by generations of whales that never saw the ones before them. Scientists believe the routes are guided by a mix of inherited instinct, the pull of Earth's magnetic field, and the subtle cues of temperature and current. Yet it feels like something more, a kind of ancestral memory, passed quietly from mother to calf, from one age of the ocean to the next. Some populations migrate along the exact same corridors their ancestors did when glaciers still touch the sea. Each turn, each resting place seems etched into the deep itself, as though the ocean remembers their passing and welcomes them back each time. It's a moving thought that even in a world without borders or maps, they still know the way home. They carry those directions not on paper, but in the body, written into bone, blood, and instinct. Every migration is both a journey and a remembrance. When a whale glides through waters its ancestors once crossed, it's not traveling alone, it's moving through history. The sea beneath it hums with memory, and the path ahead has already been blessed by the ones who came before. To follow the same road for millennia is not just navigation, it's faith. Faith that the world remains familiar, that home still exists, and that the ocean always remembers its travelers. The largest baby on earth begins its life with a hunger as vast as the ocean itself. A newborn blue whale, already weighing more than 2 tons at birth, drinks hundreds of liters of milk each day. Milk so rich and thick it resembles melted butter. From that nourishment, the calf gains nearly 200 pounds every single day. Its mother produces this milk deep in the quiet of the sea, her body creating warmth and sustenance in the cold blue expanse. The calf stays close, pressed against her side, finding comfort in her heartbeat and the soft rhythm of her swimming. Every breath she takes, every rise to the surface, teaches the calf how to live. Within just a few months, the baby will have doubled in length, its weight increasing by tens of thousands of pounds. Yet it happens with such gentleness, no frenzy, no rush. Growth in the ocean is quiet, steady, and sure. Scientists marvel at the efficiency of the process. Blue whale milk contains nearly 10 times more fat than that of a cow. Each feeding infuses the calf with the energy to travel, to dive, to sing its first faint songs into the water. It's easy to forget, watching these giants move, that they all begin the same way, small by comparison, held close, nourished by care.
Every 200 pounds gained is not just growth, it's love transformed into motion. In the stillness of the sea, the world's largest creature begins its life not with force, but with quiet abundance. Somewhere beneath the waves, a mother and calf still drift together, one giving everything, the other growing stronger with each slow, steady breath. Far below the surface, where sunlight fades and the ocean turns black, the sperm whale travels alone. Its descent is slow, deliberate, unhurried, a journey into pressure and darkness that no other mammal can match. 3,000 meters below the surface, the weight of the water is immense, yet the whale moves easily, its body built for the deep. As it dives, its lungs collapse safely under the pressure, pushing air into special chambers that protect against harm. Its heartbeat slows to a few quiet pulses per minute. Blood rich in oxygen flows only to the brain and heart. Every system shifts from activity to endurance. The body becomes a living vessel of stillness. Down there, the world is silent. No light, no color, only the faint crackle of distant currents. Somewhere in that darkness drift the giants it hunts. Deep-sea squid with eyes the size of plates. The encounter is unseen, but sometimes the whale's scars tell of the struggle, circular marks left by tentacles, reminders of the battles that take place where no one can watch. Scientists still don't fully understand how long sperm whales stay below. Some dives last more than 90 minutes. Each descent feels like a meditation, a surrender to the deep. When the whale finally returns to the surface, its exhale bursts through the air like thunder, a release of everything the depths held. To dive that far and rise again is an act of faith. Faith in the body, in rhythm, in the sea's quiet mercy. And somewhere beneath the waves, that ancient ritual continues. Descent, silence, ascent, breath, the ocean's slow heartbeat, written in motion.
The secret to a whale's calm lies in its breath. Unlike humans, it doesn't breathe without thought. Every inhale is a conscious act, every exhale deliberate. And when it dives, it does so in perfect confidence, knowing it may not breathe again for more than an hour. Before submerging, the whale fills its lungs with air, then closes the blowhole with a muscular seal. Deep inside, its body begins to change. The heartbeat slows to a gentle rhythm, sometimes as few as 2 beats per minute. Blood flows away from the skin and toward the organs that matter most, the heart, the brain, the muscles that move it through the dark. Its muscles are rich in myoglobin, a pigment that stores oxygen more efficiently than ours. Even as it glides through the depths, every cell draws calmly on that reserve, never hurried, never panicked. To a whale, holding its breath isn't strain, it's simply another rhythm of life. While we might tense at the thought of air running out, the whale surrenders completely to stillness. It moves through the cold, dark water with the grace of something that trusts its own design. The dive becomes a meditation, a long, silent interval between breaths,
guided by patience instead of urgency. When it finally rises again, the surface breaks with a single, powerful exhale, a plume of mist and warmth, a sound like a sigh after deep thought. Then the inhale follows, vast, calm, complete. To breathe so deeply and then to let go for so long is its own kind of wisdom, a lesson written in the body of the sea's greatest traveler. Endurance, not through tension, but through peace. Beneath the smooth skin of a whale lies a secret layer of life, thick, rich, and shining with oil. This is blubber, a natural armor not made for fighting, but for enduring. It wraps the whale in warmth, holding back the cold of the deepest seas and helping it float through the endless blue with effortless grace. In the Arctic, the water can fall below freezing, yet whales glide through it as if it were nothing more than a cool breeze. The oil within their blubber works like a living blanket, trapping heat close to the body. Every inch of that layer, sometimes more than a foot thick, is packed with energy, insulation, and quiet resilience. But blubber does more than protect. It also lifts. The oil's density is lighter than seawater, giving whales a natural buoyancy that helps them rest and rise with less effort. Even in sleep, they drift easily, balanced between sinking and floating, a harmony between weight and air. For centuries, humans misunderstood this gift, hunting whales for the oil their bodies carried so freely. Yet in truth, it was never meant to burn in lamps or power ships. It was meant for survival, warmth in darkness, lightness in the cold. To exist in the vast frozen sea and still move with grace requires more than strength. It requires design. The whale's blubber is both shield and softness, a quiet masterpiece of nature's engineering. Every dive, every slow turn beneath the waves is guided by that warmth within, the silent fire that keeps the cold at bay and lets the largest hearts in the ocean keep beating in peace. Even the ocean dreams. Somewhere beneath the waves, a whale drifts in slow suspension, its movements nearly still. The eyelids close. Beneath them, the eyes begin to flicker. Scientists, watching through the quiet light of an underwater camera, realized something astonishing. Whales experience REM sleep. Their eyes move just as ours do when we dream. For a long time, it was thought impossible. How could a creature that must surface to breathe ever fall deeply asleep? Yet whales have found a way to balance awareness and rest. Half of the brain remains awake, steady and alert, while the other half drifts into that mysterious rhythm of inner motion, the stage where mammals, humans included, dream. During these moments, the body softens, muscles loosen, heartbeat slows, and the whale floats between worlds, not quite awake, not fully gone. The eyes, hidden beneath the lids, trace gentle patterns as if following memories or shapes we'll never see. No one knows what whales dream about. Perhaps the echoes of distant songs, perhaps the shimmer of light through the surface, or perhaps just the slow, endless rhythm of the sea itself, sound without language, peace without end.
To think of such a vast creature dreaming is to glimpse something universal, that even the largest hearts and minds need to wander inward sometimes. The ocean around it keeps moving, waves rolling above, currents whispering below. But for a while the whale simply rests, both awake and asleep, both here and elsewhere. Proof that even giants need their quiet dreams.
Among orcas, language isn't just survival, it's heritage. Each family pod speaks in its own voice, a collection of tones, clicks, and cries that have been shaped and shared for generations. These sounds aren't fixed. They change slowly, the way human languages evolve. Accents shift, rhythms drift. Old notes are replaced with new ones, and yet the core meaning remains. Young orcas learn by listening. From the moment they're born, they're surrounded by the voices of their mothers, aunts, and siblings. Every call carries identity, who they are, where they belong, and who they've loved. Over time, the calves absorb this dialect like a child learning the melody of home. Scientists who record orca pods across the world have discovered that their calls are as unique as fingerprints. Some share ancestral sounds, hints of connection across distant waters. Others have developed entirely new words, evolving as their families grow, split, and migrate. These songs are more than communication. They're memory. Through them, orcas remember their lineage, their history, their ties to those who came before. The sea holds no writing, yet their voices are a living archive, carried in sound instead of ink. It's humbling to realize that beneath the surface, cultures bloom, not written or spoken, but sung. The orca's language is not static. It lives, breathes, and grows with them, a harmony of intellect and inheritance. When a pod calls across the waves, they're not just speaking to one another. They're continuing a story that began long before we learned to listen. A language written in sound, evolving in rhythm, as eternal as the sea. Every diver who's met a whale remembers the moment differently, not as an encounter, but as an exchange. The water still grows. A shadow forms in the blue, growing larger, slower, clearer. And then, with astonishing calm, the whale drifts closer, not threatening, not afraid, simply curious. Sometimes it stops within arm's reach, turning one enormous eye toward the small figure suspended in its world. The diver's bubbles rise past the whale's face, glimmering in the light, and the giant seems to study them, or perhaps the reflection of itself in a camera dome or mask. The gaze lingers. Seconds stretch into something like silence. Many divers describe the same feeling, that the whale isn't just looking, but seeing. Its movements are slow, deliberate, as if aware that its presence alone could overwhelm. Some even circle the diver gently, a graceful orbit in the water, a conversation of movement, curiosity, meeting curiosity. Biologists believe these behaviors show intelligence and social awareness.
Whales have large brains, complex emotions, and a capacity for exploration that often resembles our own. Yet what's most remarkable is their restraint. A creature weighing tens of tons choosing gentleness, holding still so a fragile visitor can watch in peace. It's said that when a whale looks into your eyes, you feel both small and infinite, a mirror of what the ocean does to the human soul. Perhaps that's why they approach so slowly. They don't come to frighten or impress, but to understand, to share a moment of reflection where two worlds meet and recognize each other in the calm water between. Few people ever see a whale's tongue, yet it's one of the most astonishing parts of its body, a living landscape, larger than an elephant and rough as sandpaper. When a blue whale opens its mouth to feed, that massive tongue rises like a slow wave, pressing thousands of gallons of water through the baleen plates and trapping clouds of krill within. The rough surface isn't for aggression, it's for precision. The coarse texture helps the whale move its food, guiding slippery swarms of prey toward the throat without losing them to the sea. Each taste of the ocean passes across a tongue built not for flavor, but for function, an instrument of survival shaped by millions of years. It's strange to imagine something so vast having texture at all. A tongue as big as a room, yet covered in fine ridges like the skin of stone. Divers who've seen stranded whales describe it as firm, dry to the touch, even abrasive. And yet the same surface helps sustain the calmest lives in the ocean. There's poetry in that paradox. A creature capable of swallowing 500,000 calories in a single mouthful, yet it feeds not by tearing or biting, but by filtering, by patience, by design. The roughness isn't a weapon, it's a quiet tool, tuned to the rhythm of the sea. It's easy to forget that even the gentlest giants bear traces of the world's rawness. The whale's tongue reminds us that strength often comes with texture, that even smooth grace is built upon the rough edges of survival. Somewhere beneath the waves, a blue whale feeds again, the ocean's softest heart guided by a tongue made for the work of life. In the far north, where the sea turns to glass and the air cuts like crystal, the bowhead whale drifts beneath the ice, while other whales migrate south to escape the cold. The bowhead stays. It belongs to the Arctic, its frozen silence, its shifting light, its endless night. No other whale lives here all year. The bowhead's body's built for it, blubber more than a foot thick, veins that hold warmth close to the heart, and a metabolism slow enough to wait through the longest winters. Its world is one of pressure and quiet, of ice sheets that groan and splinter above. And yet, beneath that harshness, the water is calm, a cathedral of stillness. When spring returns, the bowheads move through leads in the ice, breathing through cracks that form and close again in minutes. Their heads are so powerful they can break through frozen layers nearly 8 inches thick just to reach the air. The sound of that breath, a single exhale, carries for miles in the cold.
They live longer than any other mammals on Earth, sometimes more than 200 years, seeing centuries of ice come and go. Scientists have found harpoon fragments in their flesh from the 1800s, proof of lives that began before the modern world. It's easy to think of the Arctic as empty, but it's alive with endurance. The bowhead is its beating heart, steady, ancient, unbothered by change. Even in darkness, it continues to sing low songs that echo beneath the ice. Reminders that life doesn't always need warmth or light to endure, only patience, memory, and faith in the sea that never stops holding you. On a quiet night at sea, the moon lies across the water like a sheet of silver. The waves are calm, the air still. Then, without warning, the surface breaks. An immense body rises from the deep, twisting in slow motion. For an instant, the whale hangs weightless in the night, drenched in moonlight, its skin glowing pale and liquid. Then it falls. The splash rolls through the dark like thunder softened by distance. The sea shivers, and the light scatters again into ripples. That is breaching. The whale's leap, powerful enough to lift dozens of tons into the air, yet somehow graceful, almost peaceful when seen beneath the moon. No one knows exactly why whales breach. Scientists suggest communication, to shake off parasites, or to test their strength. But many who have watched it in silence believe it's also something else. Expression, maybe even joy. A gesture too large for words, born from the sheer wonder of being alive. Under moonlight, every droplet that flies from their backs catches the glow, a rain of silver mist. For a few seconds, the ocean looks alive with light, as if the moon itself had risen from the deep to dance. To witness such a thing is to understand balance, strength that doesn't destroy, motion that creates calm even in chaos. The whale returns to the water with a sound that fades quickly into stillness, as if the sea itself sighs in relief. And then all is quiet again. Moonlight, water, and the slow rhythm of breath. Somewhere beneath that surface, another giant turns, waiting for the next moment to rise and let the light find it once more. Across the open ocean, the sea can seem silent, endless, and still. But beneath that calm surface, whales are speaking, not always with song or call, but with movement. A single fin rises, gleaming in the light, and then strikes the water with a deep, rolling slap. The sound echoes through the sea, reaching ears miles away. This is how whales send signals. Communication, not through voice, but through rhythm. The motion sends low vibrations through the water, strong enough to be felt as much as heard. Some species, like humpbacks, use the broad span of their pectoral fins. Others use their powerful tails. The result is the same, a pulse that carries across the blue like a drumbeat between worlds. Each slap means something slightly different. It might call distant pod members closer, warn of danger,
or mark territory in the open water. Sometimes it seems simple to say, "I'm here." And when other whales respond, the surface becomes a quiet orchestra, waves rising and falling in time with the sounds of communication. Under sunlight, each strike sends shimmering rings of water outward, bright circles fading slowly into calm. From above, it looks almost ceremonial, movement and sound woven into the sea's own rhythm. For creatures that live in vast emptiness, this is how connection survives, through patience, repetition, and trust that someone, somewhere, is listening. It's a simple kind of language, but an enduring one. Each slap is both a signal and a heartbeat, proof that even across miles of silence, the ocean's giants still reach for one another, keeping time with the music of the deep. A blue whale's voice can move the sea. Deep below the surface, a single note rolls from its body, long, low, and almost impossible for human ears to detect. Yet within that sound lies astonishing power. Measured in energy, a single call from a blue whale can rival the output of a jet engine. The ocean carries sound differently than air. Every vibration spreads far and deep, bending through layers of temperature and salt. What begins as one whale's voice can travel for hundreds of miles, sometimes across entire ocean basins. Other whales hear it and reply, their voices overlapping like slow thunder over endless water. To us, recordings of these calls seem quiet, a low hum that feels more than it's heard. But that's the mystery. The world's loudest animal doesn't shout. Its voice doesn't pierce the sea, it fills it. The sound expands gently, steady and patient, reaching without force, like ripples that never fade. The whale's anatomy is built for resonance. Massive vocal cords and chest cavities turn its entire body into an instrument, one tuned to the ocean's own frequency. When it sings, it doesn't just make noise, it vibrates the water around it, speaking in pressure, in pulse, in tone. That balance between immensity and softness is what makes the blue whale so extraordinary. A creature that could overpower the sea instead chooses harmony with it. To hear that sound, or even to imagine it, is to understand that true power doesn't need to be violent. Sometimes it's enough to move the world with a single, steady note. There are moments in the sea that silence even the wind. Somewhere out in the open water, a whale lingers beside another that no longer moves. The living one circles slowly, nudging the body with its head, lifting it gently toward the surface, as if urging it to breathe again. Then it waits, patient, still, unwilling to leave. Researchers have seen this countless times across species, orcas, humpbacks, pilot whales, and even the immense blue. A mother whale will stay with her dead calf for hours, sometimes days, pushing it upward each time it sinks, keeping vigil in the endless water. Others from the pod may gather near,
swimming in silence around the pair, their movements slower, heavier, deliberate. There's no reason for it beyond emotion. The dead cannot return, and the sea gives no reward for waiting. Yet they remain. Some scientists call it empathy, others grief. Perhaps it's both. It's clear that whales feel something profound, an awareness of loss, a reluctance to let go, a quiet honoring of what once was alive. Those who have witnessed it describe the scene as heartbreaking and holy, the ocean's version of a funeral, conducted without sound or ceremony. Just the soft rhythm of waves, the occasional sigh of breath, and the weight of presence. In those moments, it becomes impossible to think of whales as anything less than sentient beings, creatures capable not only of joy and play, but of sorrow and remembrance. Beneath the surface, the sea holds not just movement, but memory. And somewhere out there, a whale still drifts beside another, keeping company in the quiet way only love can teach. Every breath a whale takes is a moment of transformation, air from the deep exchanged with sky. When that breath rushes out through the blowhole, it doesn't come as clean wind, but as a cloud of mist, warm, dense, and scented faintly of the sea. Those who've been close enough to catch it describe a smell that's unmistakable, a mix of fish, salt, and something earthy, ancient, and alive. The scent comes from the whale's lungs, where air passes over traces of oil, seawater, and the remnants of its last meal. When released, it condenses instantly into vapor, a soft plume that rises 30 feet high before dissolving into the air. It's not sweet, not foul, just real. The ocean's breath carried through another being. To breathe beside such a creature is to share something elemental. The same air that left its lungs drifts toward you. The same oxygen that once circled through a heart larger than your body now mingles with your own. For a moment, the barrier between land and sea feels thinner, like two worlds exhaling together. Sailors used to say they could smell whales before they saw them, the breeze shifting, carrying a salty tang that meant life was near. In that sense, even their breath was a kind of signal, a quiet announcement of presence. It's easy to romanticize the sound of a whale or the sight of its leap, but the truth is simpler and more intimate. A breath that smells like the ocean, rising and fading with the wind. Even the largest creatures remind us we all live by the same rhythm. Inhale, exhale, and let a little of our world linger in the air. In the endless blue where salt and light mingle, even the eyes of giants need care. Whales shed tears, not from sorrow, but from life. Their eyes, exposed to seawater and pressure, release small drops of fluid that glide over the surface, washing away salt and sand, keeping vision clear in a shifting world. These tears are thicker than ours, almost oily, made to resist the sting of salt. Each one protects the delicate tissue beneath, allowing the whale to see through water dense with light and movement. It's a quiet act of maintenance, repeated over and over without thought, nature's own form of tenderness. And yet, it's hard not to find beauty in it. The idea of a whale's eye glistening with tears, not of emotion, but of endurance, touches something deeply human. In those slow droplets lies a reminder that care doesn't always need reason. Sometimes it's simply part of being alive. Divers who've met whales up close often describe those eyes as ancient and aware, large, dark, and reflecting the sea itself. When a tear forms and drifts away, it looks almost like the ocean weeping through its own body, one element flowing back into another. Science tells us these tears have nothing to do with feeling. But perhaps beauty doesn't need intent to exist. A whale's tear isn't sadness, it's clarity, preservation. The body keeping itself whole in a world that never stops moving. Somewhere beneath the surface, a giant blinks, a drop forms, and the ocean receives it quietly. A small circle of care disappearing back into the water from which all tears once came. The ocean is not silent anymore. Once it was filled only with the slow chorus of waves and the distant songs of whales. Now it hums with the constant murmur of engines, ships passing, propellers spinning, sonar pulses rippling through the deep. Yet even in that crowded soundscape, whales still sing. They simply change the key. Scientists recording their calls have noticed something remarkable. In noisier waters, some species, blue whales, fin whales, humpbacks, adjust their songs. They deepen their pitch to carry farther through low-frequency clutter, or lift their notes above the roar of engines. Sometimes they lengthen the pauses, waiting for the sea to quiet before speaking again. The result is not silence, but adaptation, a living language finding space in a louder world. Each change is precise, deliberate, almost musical. It's as if the whales are tuning themselves to the ocean's shifting mood. Composers working within the limitations of noise, yet still creating beauty through patience and instinct. It's easy to see this as loss, but there's also grace in it. The whales remind us that survival isn't resistance alone. It's learning how to listen, how to bend without breaking. Their songs may sound different now, shorter, slower, shaped by our machines, but they continue to travel. Across miles of water, those voices still find one another, weaving through the noise like calm through chaos. Even in the noisiest seas, the ocean's oldest singers endure, not silenced, but transformed. A testament that harmony is not the absence of interference, but the art of continuing to sing, despite it. Long before science named them, the first sailors gave whales other titles: leviathans, sea gods, keepers of the deep. Out on open waters, where land vanished and the sky merged with the horizon, a single glimpse of a whale breaching from the mist was enough to stop every hand on deck. To those mariners, such creatures were not animals. They were the ocean itself, risen in living form. Their stories filled the maps of the ancient world. Early explorers drew whales as vast beasts curling around ships, their bodies entwined with waves. Some believed they swallowed storms. Others said they carried the souls of drowned sailors on their backs. To see one surface, slow, immense, silent, was to stand at the edge of something holy. In the book of Job, the Leviathan is a creature beyond human grasp, made without fear, breathing smoke and fire. Sailors took those words to heart, whispering them whenever the sea grew rough, praying that the gods of the deep would let them pass unharmed. Centuries later, the myths faded, replaced by study and observation. But even now, when a whale rises from the water, its presence feels sacred. The world seems to hold its breath. It's comforting to know that wonder hasn't vanished, it has only changed shape. What was once worship has become awe. What was once fear has become respect. Some truths remain the same. The ocean is still vast, the whale still ancient, and the sight of its slow, silvered back beneath the sun still feels like witnessing something divine. Not a monster or a god, but a memory of both, carried quietly in the sea's eternal heart. Deep in the calm layers of the ocean, where light fades into a muted green, a group of whales hangs silently in place. Their bodies rise straight from the depths, tails downward, heads tilted toward the faint glow of the surface. They do not move. They do not sing. They simply drift, asleep, suspended like towers in the sea. Scientists first discovered this in 2008, when a team of divers encountered a pod of sperm whales resting vertically. The whales remained motionless, their breathing slow and even, their massive forms swaying gently with the current. It was as if time itself had stopped, giants caught in a moment of perfect stillness. Unlike humans, whales sleep with only half their brain at a time, so even in slumber, they remain faintly aware. But during these vertical naps, something changes. Their vigilance softens. Their movements fade to almost nothing. They become columns of calm, balanced between water and air. From above, they look like monuments, dark, elegant figures rising from the depths. The ocean around them glimmers faintly, light rippling across their skin like moonlight on stone. For minutes, sometimes hours, they remain this way, resting within the slow rhythm of their breath. It's a hauntingly beautiful image. Sleep not curled or folded, but standing, peaceful giants aligned with gravity, dreaming in silence. When they finally stir, the group moves together, breaking the surface in near-perfect synchrony, a quiet awakening written in water. In their stillness lies a lesson, that rest doesn't always mean retreat. Sometimes it's simply learning to stand tall, even in the deepest calm. A blue whale doesn't just listen with its ears.
It listens with its bones. Along the length of its massive lower jaw runs a hollow chamber, a natural instrument tuned to the deep. When a distant sound moves through the water, a call from another whale, the rumble of shifting currents, even a storm far away, the jaw begins to vibrate, carrying those tremors directly to the inner ear. The entire skull becomes part of the hearing process. Each note, each pulse is felt as much as it is heard. Through bone conduction, a blue whale can sense sounds from hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. To us, those frequencies would be too low, inaudible hums below the range of human hearing. To them, it's conversation. Imagine the stillness of that perception. A creature suspended in miles of open water, feeling the faintest tremor of another being half an ocean away. No wires, no echoes, just vibration flowing through sea and bone. The ocean becomes a living network of whispers, every sound shaping the quiet in between. The lower jaw of a blue whale can measure more than 20 feet long, built not only for feeding, but for resonance. Each vibration travels through it like the pluck of a string on an instrument too vast for us to imagine. To listen this way is to belong completely to your environment, to let the world move through you, to understand without words. Some say whales are the ocean's memory. Perhaps that's true, but they're also its ears, colossal, gentle, and always listening, even to the faintest voices carried by the deep. Sometimes, on moonless nights far from shore, the sea begins to glow. Tiny sparks of blue-green light flicker beneath the surface. Single-celled organisms called dinoflagellates drifting in vast numbers. When disturbed, they shine, and when a whale passes through them, the result is pure magic. Each movement, the sweep of a fin, the slow roll of a back, sets off an eruption of light. For a few moments, the whale seems to glow from within, its outline traced in electric blue. Trails of luminescence swirl behind it, curling through the dark like liquid fire. It's not true bioluminescence from the whale itself, but from the life it stirs awake, a cosmic ballet of motion and light. Sailors once mistook these glowing shapes for spirits or sea gods, immense beings made of light. In truth, it's the smallest creatures on earth illuminating the largest. The dance between them is accidental, but it looks like reverence, a halo born of movement. Scientists studying these events call them plankton blooms, but that phrase hardly captures their beauty. Underwater cameras reveal entire pods glowing in synchrony, like constellations drifting through the sea. Each dive, each exhale leaves a soft flash behind, the deep breathing in color. It's a reminder that light and life are always intertwined. The whale doesn't create the glow. It simply moves through the world, and the world responds. For a few fleeting minutes, the dark ocean becomes a sky, and the whales become stars, silent, slow, and burning blue beneath the waves. If you could translate the ocean into music, it might sound like a humpback's song. Long, rolling notes echo through the deep,
not random, but structured, flowing with rhythm, variation, and emotion. Scientists who studied these haunting calls found something astonishing. Humpbacks sing in patterns that followed the same scales and progressions as human music. Each song unfolds in phrases, with repeated themes that rise and fall like verses and choruses. Some notes stretch for half a minute. Others flutter quickly like trills. The whales pause, then begin again, altering tone or rhythm ever so slightly, improvising within form, composing in real time. When analyzed, the frequencies and intervals align with musical scales familiar to us. It's not coincidence, it's convergence. Across millions of years and two entirely different worlds, both whales and humans have found beauty in order, emotion in repetition, and meaning in sound that resolves. Male humpbacks sing the most, often for hours, their voices carrying for miles. When one begins, others nearby join in, harmonizing in subtle nairs. The ocean fills with their shared song, a living symphony that shifts and evolves over seasons, sometimes changing completely as new melodies spread across oceans. No one knows exactly why they sing this way. Courtship, communication, or something deeper. But perhaps purpose isn't the point. Perhaps it's the same reason we sing: to express, to connect, to feel the world respond. It's humbling to imagine that beneath the waves, entire concerts unfold, compositions written not in ink, but in breath and water. The humpback's song reminds us that music isn't invention, it's memory, an ancient language shared by all hearts that long to be heard. The whale's secret to moving through the ocean lies not in muscle or speed, but in breath. With a single exhale or inhale, it can shift its entire body's relationship with the water, floating higher, sinking lower, or hovering in perfect suspension. For a creature that may weigh more than a jet, it takes almost no effort at all. Inside its vast body, air fills not only the lungs, but also specialized spaces in the head and chest. By adjusting how much air remains and where it's held, the whale can control its buoyancy, its ability to rise and fall through the water. A slow release of air allows descent. A gentle intake lifts it back toward the light. This balance is so precise that whales can drift motionless in mid-water, neither sinking nor rising, as though gravity itself has loosened its hold. From the outside, it looks still. Inside, it's quiet mastery. Control not through tension, but through awareness. Every dive begins and ends with that breath. Each adjustment is deliberate, rhythmic, almost meditative. The ocean accepts their weight because the whales have learned how to yield to it, how to let their own bodies echo the sea's pressure and pulse. It's a kind of grace humans rarely feel, motion guided by breath alone. To watch a whale move this way is to see serenity made visible, a living mountain gliding on the rhythm of its lungs.
In their world, balance isn't something achieved, it's maintained, moment by moment, through trust in breath and patience with depth. Every so often, the stillness of the sea breaks in a quiet, deliberate motion. A gray whale rises vertically through the water, its immense head emerging just above the surface. For a few seconds it lingers there, one dark, glistening eye peering out across the open air. Then, just as slowly, it sinks again, vanishing into the calm below. This behavior is called spy hopping. Scientists believe it's a way for whales to look around, to see what's happening above their world of sound and shadow. They might be watching the coastline, scanning for boats, or simply observing the sky. Some linger long enough for their eyes to meet those of onlookers. The moment feels mutual, as if both are studying the other in quiet recognition. Gray whales are known for their curiosity. They often approach small boats gently, surfacing beside them and watching with calm, unblinking patience. Divers have described the encounter as humbling, being seen, truly seen, by something ancient and enormous, yet utterly peaceful. Spy hopping is not a show of dominance or defense. It's observation, pure and simple, awareness made visible. The whale's great body stays still beneath the water, balanced by slow, powerful flukes, while the head turns slightly to follow motion or light. It's easy to imagine what they see: the shimmer of waves, the soft horizon, the strange shape of the human world. Perhaps curiosity is the closest form of wisdom, not demanding, not fearful, just the quiet wish to understand. And so the whale lifts its gaze, bridging sea and sky for a moment, a silent watcher in a world that seldom looks back with such patience. Across the quiet water, two dark shapes rise together. The sea folds around them, smooth and calm, as if welcoming an old ritual. Their backs curve in unison, two arcs of living shadow breaking the surface at the same instant. For a heartbeat, they breathe. Twin plumes of mist rise and vanish into the sky. Then, just as gracefully, both descend, slipping beneath the waves in perfect time. Whales often surface this way, in pairs that move as one. It isn't rehearsed, and there's no leader. The rhythm comes naturally, drawn from shared instinct and familiarity. They know each other's pace, the timing of each breath, the distance that feels right between them. Scientists have seen mother and calf pairs surfacing like this, as well as lifelong companions in older pods. To watch it is to see communication without sound, a conversation of motion, balance, and trust. In the vast emptiness of the ocean, such synchrony feels almost sacred. There's no urgency, no chase, just the gentle certainty of presence. You are here, and so am I. Even beneath the water, their movements often mirror. One turns, the other follows. One dives, the other descends beside it. Their pulses align, their songs overlap, their breaths become part of the same rhythm.
It's a quiet reminder that companionship doesn't need noise or touch. Sometimes it's enough to share the same motion, to rise and fall together in the same sea. As the surface stills again, the ripples drift outward, carrying the shape of their unity long after they've gone. Two beings, one rhythm, proof that even in the endless deep, harmony finds a way to breathe. Inside the massive skull of a whale lies the largest brain on Earth, up to 20 pounds of folded gray matter, housed within a head that can span several meters. For comparison, a human brain weighs about 3. But what makes the whale's brain extraordinary isn't just its size, it's what it seems to hold: memory, emotion, and a quiet kind of understanding. The sperm whale, especially, carries this immense organ. Its brain has more convolutions, folds, and ridges than any other creature, suggesting a high level of processing and awareness. And across the oceans, their behavior reflects that intelligence. Family bonds that last lifetimes, communication across continents, coordinated hunts, songs that evolve through generations. They don't think in words as we do. Their world is made of vibration and echo, thought shaped in sound and rhythm, not language. When one whale calls and another answers hundreds of miles away, it's not just instinct, it's recognition, connection, a memory made audible. To imagine such a mind is to stretch the limits of our own. What does consciousness feel like when it's surrounded not by air, but by pressure and depth? When silence is full of meaning, and every breath is an act of awareness? Perhaps that's why whales seemed so calm. Their intelligence isn't restless like ours. It's ancient, rooted in patience, guided by the rhythm of the sea. Somewhere beneath the waves, a mind larger than any on land drifts in slow thought, not racing toward understanding, but simply being aware of its place in the blue vastness that shaped it. In the dim blue of the ocean's middle depths, where sunlight fades to green shadow, an extraordinary sight drifts in silence. A group of sperm whales, enormous, ancient, perfectly still, hangs vertically in the water. Their heads point upward, their tails downward, their bodies spaced evenly apart like pillars. They are asleep. This is one of nature's rarest scenes, first captured by researchers who accidentally floated into a resting pod. The whales didn't move. They simply drifted, each one suspended in its own column of calm. Together they looked like a forest, trunks of life swaying in slow rhythm with the sea's unseen currents. Sperm whales sleep in brief intervals, only minutes long, but they do it together. Their trust in one another runs deep. While half of each brain remains alert to danger, the rest of the body relaxes. In those shared moments, the ocean feels motionless, as though time itself has taken a breath. No sound, no light, just stillness. the kind that only exists where the world forgets to move. Their enormous bodies, normally so powerful, seem weightless here, like leaves caught in invisible wind. Scientists believe this group sleeping strengthens bonds, a quiet form of companionship, a collective rhythm of rest. Watching them, you can almost sense the peace between them. No fear, no thought, just presence. If the forest on land sways in air, this one drifts in water. And when the whales awaken, they turn gently and glide away together, an entire grove of life stirring back into motion. For a few minutes, the sea becomes a sanctuary, and the largest minds on earth share the simplest act, the grace of rest. Across thousands of miles of rolling sea, a sound drifts through the dark, deep, patterned, and familiar. Somewhere a whale pauses mid-swim. It knows that voice. It's never met the singer, never shared the same patch of ocean, but the rhythm and tone are unmistakable. It's the song of its kind, distant yet known, like a melody carried on the wind. Whales communicate through a language made not of words, but of music. Each pod develops its own variation, a dialect shaped by time, geography, and habit. Scientists have found that whales can recognize these distinct melodies even when they come from pods half an ocean away. The notes might differ slightly, but the structure, the pulse, the emotional rhythm all remain familiar. To a whale, the ocean is a vast hall of echoes. Every call, every response bounces and fades, blending with the hum of the deep. But hidden within that soundscape is identity, the memory of others. Even across entire basins, a whale can pick out the tone of its kin, like hearing a friend's laughter in a distant crowd. It's connection without touch, recognition without sight. They might never meet, never surface beneath the same moon, yet they are bound by melody. For humans, music often bridges distance. A song heard in one place can stir emotion in another. Whales live that truth constantly. Their world is woven from sound and memory, a shared understanding that crosses continents. Somewhere in the endless blue, one whale sings, and another, far away, listens. The sea between them carries not just the sound, but the feeling of belonging.